Hello friends. This is Fox Nivel's What Ifs. How are you all? So we are back with an interesting story on what if Naruto was a omnipotent god. The summary follows as. Et vidi de mari bestium ascendentum, habantum capita septem, et cornua decem, et super cornua eius decem diademata, et super capita eius nomina blasphemi. And I saw a beast coming up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 diadems, and upon his heads names of blasphemy. Et bestia, quam vidi, similis erat pardo, et peds eius sicut peds ursi, et os eius sicut os leonis, et dedit illi draco virtutum suam, et potestatem magnum. And the beast, which I saw, was like to a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his own strength and great power. Et vidi unum de capitibus sues quasi oxysum in mortem. Et plaga mortis eius curata est. Et admirata est universa terra post bestiam. And I saw one of his heads as it were slain to death, and his death's wound was healed, and all the earth was in admiration after the beast. Et adoraverunt draconum, qui dedit potestatem bestiae, et adoraverunt bestiam, descens, quis similis bestiae, et quis poterit pugnare cum ea. And they adored the dragon, which gave power to the beast, and they adored the beast, saying, Who is like to the beast, and who shall be able to fight with him?
Et datum est eos loquens magna, et blasphemias, et data est potestas facere mensis quadragenta duos.
And there was given to him a mouth speaking great things, and blasphemies, and power was given to him to do 42 months. Et aperuit os suum in blasphemias ad diem, blasphemare nomen eius, et tabernaculum eius, et eos, qui in caelo habitant. And he opened his mouth unto blasphemies against God, to blaspheme his name, and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. Et est datum illi bellum facere cum sanctus, et vincere eos. Et data est illi potestas in omnem tribum, et populum, et linguam, et gentum. Et adoraverunt eam omnes, qui inhabitant terram, quorum non sunt scripta nomina in libro vitae agni, qui oxysis est ab origine mundi. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over every tribe, and people, and tongue, and nation. And all that dwell upon the earth adored him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, which was slain from the beginning of the world. Si quis habet aurum, audiat. If any man have an ear, let him hear. Qui in captivitatem duxerit, in captivitatem vadit. Qui in gladio occiderit, o portet eum gladio occidi. Hic est patientia, et fide sanctorum. He that shall lead into captivity, shall go into captivity. He that shall kill by the sword, must be killed by the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Et vidi alium bestiam ascendentum de terra, et habebat cornua duo similia agni, et locibator sicut draco. And I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns, like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. Et potestatem prioris bestiae omnem facibat in conspectu eius, et facit terram, et habitantes in ea, adorare bestiam primum, quius curata est plaga mortis. And he executed all the power of the former beast in his sight, and he caused the earth, and them that dwell therein, to adore the first beast, whose wound to death was healed. Et facit signa magna, ut etiam ignum facere de caelo descendir in terram in conspectu hominum. And he did great signs so that he made also fire to come down from heaven unto the earth in the sight of men. Et seduxit habitantes in terra propter signa, quae data sunt illi facere in conspectu bestiae, decens habitantibus in terra, ut facient imaginem bestiae, quae habet plagam gladi, et vixit. And he seduced them that dwell on the earth, for the signs, which were given him to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make the image of the beast, which had the wound by the sword, and lived. Et datum est illi ut daret spiritum imagini bestiae, et ut loquator imago bestiae, et faciat ut quicumque non adoraverunt imaginem bestiae, occidantor. And it was given him to give life to the image of the beast, and that the image of the beast should speak, and should cause, that whosoever will not adore the image of the beast, should be slain. Et facit omnes bacillos, et magnos, et devites, et paupers, et liberos, et servos habere characterum in dextera manu sua, aut in frontibus sues. And he shall make all, both little and great, rich and poor, freemen and bondmen, to have a character in their right hand, or on their foreheads. Et necis possit amir, aut vendir, nisi qui habet characterum, aut nomen bestiae, aut numerum nominis eius. And that no man might buy or sell, but he that hath the character, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Hic sapientia est. Qui habet intellectum, compute numerum bestiae. Numerus enim hominis est. Et numerus eius sexenti sexaginta sex. Here is wisdom. He that hath understanding, let him count the number of the beast. For it is the number of a man, and the number of him is 666. Apocalypsis 13. 18 Revelations 13-118. 3 years ago, he sealed the souls of Diedrich and Albion within the sacred gears boosted gear and divine dividing. After that, the war has turned for the better. Large-scale battles like the ones before he fought the Red and White Dragon Emperors has stopped from happening. Naruto concluded that it may have been because of his showcase of power against the two heavenly dragons. It went down to mere skirmishes across the world. But there are still some occasional large-scale battles, but very rare. In fact, Azazel met with him, announcing that he and some of the leaders of Grigori are calling for peace. At first, Michael and the other seraphs were skeptical, but Naruto saw the purity in Azazel's words. It seems that war has finally begun to take its toll on his emotions. Flashback. 2 years ago, 4th heaven, the Garden of Eden. Naruto was sitting underneath the Tree of Knowledge, as it has been long since he moved Eden from the human world to heaven, relaxing as he began to think of those days when he was young. He knew they were long gone, but that does not stop him thinking about them. They were the ones that shaped the Naruto of today. Without them, Naruto won't be what he is right now. Suddenly, a magic circle appeared in front of him, but Naruto being Naruto, he ignored it. He knew who exactly is coming. Azazel, it takes a lot of guts for you to come here alone, Naruto said, with his eyes still closed, no doubt, waiting for an answer from the leader of the fallen angels. Soon, before even Azazel managed to reply, a bright light appeared in between them. After the light faded, it showed that it was Gabriel, ready for battle. What are you doing here? The female angel asked. Her tone is laced with anger. Gabriel, stand down. But father. Stand down dear, and sit down with me. And she did, reluctantly. Naruto sighed. This is too troublesome. I sound like Shikamaru now. Kagaya giggled in his mindscape but didn't say anything. That's a first. What is it, Azazel? Why did you come here? Naruto asked, still sitting underneath the tree. Old man, no, father, forgive me. I have no intention of entering this war between you and Lucifer. I've already made peace with your eldest son. Now I come to you for peace. We, the fallen angels, are officially backing out of this war. Father, I've lost too many already. I don't think we'll survive for long. Please, father, I'm begging you. Azazel was the last person that Naruto knew that would bow to him to ask for forgiveness. Seeing the awkwardness of the events unfolding in front of him, he did the only that came to his head, scratch the back of it. Azazel, stand up. Bowing with your forehead touching the ground doesn't look good on you. Azazel didn't move. Naruto rolled his eyes before standing up, and walked to Azazel. Stand up, kid. Ah, damn it. All right. I understand your plight. Don't worry. No forces of heaven will attack you. Remember what I've told you a long time ago. All you've done are already forgiven. Go now, and lead your people to peace, or wherever you want. With that, Naruto began to walk away, and then, Azazel stood up. Thanks, old man. Azazel to Naruto, intending to hug, but Naruto stopped Azazel by pushing him away, with Naruto stretching his right arm to push Azazel with his head. Don't try to hug me, it's creeping me out. Now, just go. Naruto pushed Azazel away, who is still trying to hug him. Gabriel giggled at the sight of the most powerful being in the universe avoiding a hug from one of his sons. Old man, I love you too. Oi, get off me. Flashback and equals. Naruto smiled at the memory. Oh, the joys of being a father to everyone. It can be annoying sometimes, but most of all, he enjoys being a father. Soon those thoughts began to vanish as he saw Michael with a grim face, and he is also carrying a letter. Naruto sighed. He knows a headache is coming soon. Oh, he just knows it. Not wanting to tarry long, he urges the archangel to speak. What is it, Michael? I have a letter for you. From Lucifer. Naruto raised an eyebrow. What would Lucifer want? Peace. The boy is as stubborn as him. The morning star won't budge from his place, and he's not the one for letters. Give it to me. I want to read it in its entirety. Naruto beckoned his right-hand man to come forward and give him the letter. You opened it already, did you? Naruto asked as he glanced down the letter, before looking to Michael, who looked away. It's fine, there's nothing to worry about. Just let me read it. Naruto said as Michael gave the opened letter to him and began to read silently. Father, after that showcase of your power 3 years ago, our people have become anxious, because as you may have known, no one has ever seen you fight, and your power made them feel small. And as such, they have become afraid if you were to besiege the underworld, especially that Azazel and his fallen angels pulled out of this war, leaving our two sides warring each other. They are afraid that you will destroy the underworld by yourself with your full powers, and we do not want that. We four do not want that, and as such, we want to talk to you, the four of us, I, Leviathan, Asmodeus and Beelzebub, and you, at the shores of Ophir, at the first light of the new year. We shall be waiting for you, the four great Satans. What do you think? I don't know, but Ophir, really? Well, that place is a paradise on earth. I wouldn't mind going there for other purposes, but why not? If something bad happens, you can take care of them immediately. I smell something fishy here. So, do I. Make sure when you meet them that you will bring someone with you. I have you with me. Oh, so you want me out with you that day, huh? That's a good idea. I'll make sure I'm battle ready. I'll have to talk to our children about this first. Sure, let them know and proceed with your plan. Thanks. Michael, summon the council. I need to talk to all of you.
Yes, Father. 3 months later. At the shores of ancient Ophir, Pearl of the Orient.
The sun has already risen and a new year has arrived, a new day for everyone. Naruto stood atop a cliff at the ancient land of Ophir. He is wearing all his battle attire, with the true Longinus at his left hand like a staff. Kagaya, wearing the robe she wore during the Fourth Great Ninja War, stood, or rather, hover at his side, in all her glory. The Usagi no Megami knew something fishy is up, because Lucifer is not the one to send letters. In all four of them, Leviathan is the only person that may have sent that letter, because she was the most reluctant to rebel against Naruto all those years ago. Kagaya knew it, Naruto knew it, but they let her be, because Naruto has this undying love for all his children. Naruto and Kagaya waited until a magic circle appeared in front of him to reveal. It was indeed Leviathan, one of Naruto's daughters, and the last to rebel against him. The rebellion against Naruto was deliberate, and they were kicked out of heaven for that, forcibly, whilst the fall of the fallen angels was an accident. They fell the same way the first humans did, through temptation, but of a different kind. Adam and Eve fell because Samael tempted Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge. Azazel fell due to the temptation of lust, most of the fallen did. Back to the topic, they saw Leviathan appeared in front of them. She possesses a mid-length brown hair and blue eyes. She has a pale skin complexion like Kagaya, almost the same as Lilith, seeing that they are sisters. She is also wearing a purple robe with chestplate and gauntlets. I knew it was you. The other three doesn't know you're here, don't they? It was more of a statement than a question, considering he and Kagaya already made this conclusion beforehand. I'm sorry for tricking you because I really wanted to talk to you, she said while Naruto glanced at Kagaya, who raised her eyebrows. About what? It was Kagaya this time who spoke. Peace, mother, I'm here for peace, she replied softly, looking down at her feet. Peace? How dare you ask for peace? You four started this war. If not for your father, I would have. Enough. Kagaya, leave this to me, she's still your daughter. Kagaya was stopped by Naruto, who slammed the bottom of the true Longinus to the ground, creating a small quake. But, leave it to me, I'll talk to you later. Enough with the drama, for now, we've had more than enough of that. Naruto's voice carried supreme authority, as it should be. He needed not to shout as every time he speaks, because when he does, nothing good comes out of it. You know it will take more than that for me to believe you. I know, that's why I read my mind. You can do that, right? You've done that a few times a long time ago, she said to Naruto, who nodded. I can, but why should I trust you? The last time I checked, you were one of the people that declared war on me. She can't refute that. Her father is right. She was one of the many who betrayed Naruto before the creation of man. While reluctantly, she still rebelled against his will. Earning back her father's trust will not be easy, especially when they declared war against the heavenly faction, and as much as one of those other beings who dare call themselves gods, namely, the one called Shiva, the true heaven is her father's heaven, the realm that was created before any of them existed. Leviathan would say that proudly. Even though she became a devil, she still loves her father, more so than her deceased husband that gave her 3 children which by now, are all grown-ups, with their own family. I do not know, but I will try my best to prove myself, she stated with conviction in her eyes. Naruto knew she wasn't lying, but he is testing her on how far she will go to earn back his trust. Kaguya remained silent, as she knew what her husband is thinking. As much as she wants to deny it, Leviathan wasn't lying, she really wanted to reconcile with her father. Really? Well, a deafening roar interrupted him. It was the loudest he ever heard, and it came from the sea. The beast is larger than Great Red, but on par with the said dragon, as well as Ophis. This beast has different characteristics that came from several animals, such as lion, leopard, bear, dragon and much more. It has 7 heads and 10 horns, with 7 long thick tails that came from different animals, as their shapes and characteristics are different from one another. It possesses 4 stout arms and 2 legs that are thicker than the arms. The main body of the beast has the characteristics of a primate with black fur and has some sort scales all over its body. Trihexa. What the hell is this monster doing here? Naruto muttered as he narrowed his eyes, while Kaguya glanced at Naruto and Leviathan stared at the beast, feeling its gigantic powers that are greater than hers by a large margin. What manner of creature is this? Leviathan asked to herself, but Naruto answered her. The beast of the apocalypse, I'm sure you've heard of it, you've read the holy book, after all, it was a very long time ago. This beast was written in detail in the book of Revelations, and this beast appears as exactly as what I showed John in his dreams. Its number, 636. Naruto stated while Leviathan's eyes widened. She knew what her father is talking about. What are we going to do about it? The Mao Leviathan asked while Naruto chuckled, confusing her whilst Kaguya silently smirked. It's not we, it's I. What am I going to do about it? That should the question. Now, Kaguya-heim, mind taking her away from here? This is a fine chance to finally do it. Kaguya nodded with a smile, at the prospect of Naruto going all out after many years. She then grabbed Leviathan's shoulder and they vanished in the thin air. After that, Naruto began to stretch his limbs as the beast continued towards him. I should probably bring him here, the idiot has been itching for this fight. Though, I must secure the area lest we accidentally destroy the world. Rikudo. Musakyojin, 6 paths. 6 red yang formation, with that, a gigantic 6-sided barrier that covered a very large amount of land and sea. Enough to protect the outside of the barrier from a certain destruction when the greatest began their showdown. Time to bring out the big guy, he's been looking forward to this. Though, I must prevent them going out of the barrier, seeing that he would like to fight this beast as he requested it when we formed a contract, I'll just need to weaken this guy before sealing it. Anyways, let's go. Kachiyose no Jutsu. Gareto Redo, summoning Jutsu. Great Red, in a very large explosion. A dragon appeared, not just a dragon, but the true dragon, the dragon of the apocalypse. Great Red. He is a massive western dragon with a horn on his snout and has the usual 2 sets of wings. He is a huge fellow with a body length of 100 meters. Ho? Old man, is it time? Great Red asked Naruto, who is currently sitting atop his head. Yeah, and look, it's staring at you. Naruto mentally snickered. Red doesn't like anyone staring at him, well except some, namely Naruto, Kaguya, and Ophis. I'll destroy this bastard. Leave this thing to me, old man. Red shouted as he glared at the beast who noticed him and continued charging towards them. You're equal in powers, it will prove difficult for you to destroy it, so I'll help you, then I'll seal the bastard somewhere. Got that? Yeah, I got it, old man. Great Red answered in a dismissive tone which made Naruto shake his head with a smile. Damn brat. Alright, let's go. With that, Great Red charged head onto the beast with his snout at the fore while Naruto stood atop the great dragon's head. Naruto watched on as the 2 great beasts near each other at high speed. He waited and waited until the 2 beasts collided with each other, creating a massive shockwave that created high waves that went away like a powerful tsunami as they clashed above the sea. The dragon against the chimera, dreams against destruction, and with it, the end has begun. I'm going up. Naruto shouted as he flew upwards to release his powers that he has been restraining for a very long time. Since the universe was created, and that was more than 13 billion years ago, soon, when Naruto reached a high altitude, he released his restriction seals that are located on his arms, legs, and chest, and soon, the world, or universe rather, felt his tremendous power, from the human world, to the underworld, the dimensional gap and to heaven. Every single being felt Naruto's power and many became worried as they've never felt God's power at this level ever. Great Red smirked when he felt Naruto's power increased as he slashed Trihexa in its belly with his claws, creating a small damage at its fur, proving that Trihexa is a very tough being, and extremely powerful when it pushed Great Red to the water below and slashed his face. But the Dragon of Dragons is not the one to get damaged by such a measly attack, especially since his scales are tougher than the mightiest metal on earth. Quaz, Wex, Exort, Naruto muttered as 3 orbs began to float above him. One is the essence of the storm, the other is the heart of a blizzard, and the last is the soul of a phoenix. The pinnacle of arcane arts, that not even the greatest of the mages on earth can use. Naruto then released a deafening blast towards Trihexa after flying down to its level with Great Red, pushing the beast backward and stunning it for a few seconds. Great Red didn't hesitate and began to breathe fire to the beast as Naruto flew towards the side of the beast with his 24 golden wings stretched for all to see. With that, the 3 different orbs changed to 3 Exort and he created a sunstrike that struck the beast which made it screech in pain. Followed by a meteor that fell down from the sky in a quick succession as the 3 Exort orbs became 2 with 1 Wex appearing before anyone can even blink. Soon, the 2 Exort and 1 Wex became 2 Quaz and 1 Exort and an ice wall appeared in front of Trihexa which slowed the beast down as Great Red then grabbed the stunned beast and bit one of its heads. The dragon won, most likely out of annoyance as Naruto chuckled before the orbs changed again, back to the original 3 and created another deafening blast. But this one is different. He targeted one of the heads and focused the spell on one of the heads which knocked it out. The spell wasn't enough to kill the beast. After all, it is one of the most powerful in the world. But knowing that knocking out one of its head will lessen the ability of Trihexa to fight, he did it. Great Red saw this began his assault on one of the heads to knock it out, before using his large to bash the beast in its side while using his massive tail to knock the beast down. However, the beast caught it and used it to throw Red away to a short distance, depending on your point of view. Naruto knew the risks of making the 2 colossal beasts fight each other, and that is why he did it, though, he couldn't help but worry about the world. As these 2 are releasing powers that could possibly break the world, his beloved creation, into pieces if not used properly, but luckily, he was there to control things, as well as to finally seal the bastard that has been ruining his creation for years. Great Red only wanted to be there because he wanted to fight Trihexa. That's it, nothing more, nothing less, just fight, and Trihexa showing up today was nothing but coincidence. So Naruto took this chance to finally allow Great Red to fight Trihexa, as well as to seal the elusive bastard to the ends of the world. Red, get him! Naruto shouted as he created 4 shadow clones without any hand signs. Goten. Darenden no Jutsu, 5 style, great combo technique. The original Naruto and his clones shouted on their heads mentally as they released 5 streams of the 5 elements from their mouths, from water to fire. All struck one of the arms of the great beast damaging it and Great Red took this chance to lay another fire stream to one of Trihexa's heads. This time, the lion one, and it managed to burn the left side of its face. Exort, 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 Wex. Naruto dropped another sunstrike followed by another meteor as he dismissed the clones and flew back atop Great Red's head. Red, stay still. The great dragon did and flew back. Suddenly, a blue armor surrounded Great Red and took its shape around Great Red's body shape, and at his, now armored, head, a hexagon-shaped prism appeared with Naruto floating inside it. A great sword also appeared in Great Red's right arm, and he was confused on how it appeared there and how he is now covered in an ethereal armor. This is my majestic attire. Tempestuous god of valor, or in my native language, Iso. Susanoo. My ultimate impenetrable defense. Not even Diedrich's penetrate scratched this armor, especially if I wield the Yata no Kagami, the shield that can negate any kind of attack, though, you don't need it so I didn't summon it. I can get used to this, ahahaha. Great Red laughed with Naruto before they noticed that Trihexa is charging at them. Don't, and charge at the beast. Point the sword forward. Naruto ordered to the Dragon of Dragons, who nodded. Got it. Great Red shouted as he did what Naruto said and pointed the great sword forward before charging at the beast in high speed, leaving a trail of blue light. Graahhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhh the sword. But they remained at a standstill, trying to push each other, and Naruto got the solution for it. Shinra Tensei, Almighty Push, and as usual, Naruto raised his right arm and a very powerful force pushed the beast away from the two and it launched across the sea before crashing under the waves. Well, that was overpowered, Naruto muttered before glancing behind him as a magic circle appeared. Who's that? He narrowed his eyes as he waited for the person to appear, and soon, it appeared to be Azazel. What are you doing here, brat? Naruto asked the leader of the fallen angels without looking as he saw Trihexa emerging from the seas again. Why am I here? Good question, old man. Everyone in the universe can feel the immense power that is coming from this place, and I know a few beings that can release such overwhelming power. The first of them is you. Next is... Wait, is that Great Red, covered in your blue armor? I'm the true dragon, Great Red. Ahahahahaha. Shut it, brat. Azazel's sweat dropped at the personality of Great Red and noticed how Naruto addressed the Great Dragon. It's the same treatment Azazel received from Naruto, always with the brat in every sentence when they talk. Anyways, get out of here, the enemy is way out of your league. This is the beast of the apocalypse we are talking about. Its power is greater than you. You're putting yourself in danger by being here. Naruto ordered the fallen angel, who gained a serious look on his face, which is quite rare for someone like him. Be that as it may be, everyone across the world is getting some sort of discomfort because you three are releasing powers beyond our wildest imagination. I came here to tell you, please, finish what you are doing so that everyone can be at peace. Azazel pleaded as Naruto watched Trihexa began its charge towards them again.
Go. Naruto shouted as he exited the armored Great Red to clash with Trihexa personally. He vanished in a streak of yellow flash appeared in front of Trihexa before delivering a punch in its gut, making it fall back to the sea.
Damn, the old man is super strong. How in seven heavens will Lucifer even try to fight him? Is he an idiot? Guess so. I don't want to receive the end of that punch. Azazel thought as he watched Naruto clashed with Great Red, with true Longinus on his hands. Help me, Naruto heard a hoarse voice whispered. Trihexa? The blonde god thought before dodging a swipe from the beast's claws. Kagaya Heim, you heard that? Naruto asked Kagaya through their mind link, as the rabbit goddess went inside the seal again after securing Leviathan's location. Yeah, it's some sort of a whisper coming from the beast. The voice is filled with sorrow, grief, sadness, and is that regret? I don't know, it also sounds like a female. Kagaya replied as Naruto continued to battle with the beast as Great Red, still covered with Susanoo, and Azazel watched on. Free, me, it replied again. This time, Naruto recognized the distinct female voice. From what? He asked, dodging a tail by flying upwards. From hate, this world, full of hate. Naruto raised an eyebrow, as he dismissed the true Longinus, deciding that he no longer needs it in this battle. He also decided to investigate what Trihexa said to his mind about being bound by the hatred of this world after the battle. I cannot control my actions, bring me somewhere else, release me from this hate. That makes sense. The beast was just rampaging across the world whenever it appears, and the attacks weren't connected. Naruto then created a large Rasen Shuriken and threw it towards Trihexa's stomach, which made fall into the sea again. The sound of wind blades screeching as it created a gash in Trihexa's exposed body. I don't know how to release you from the world's hate. I have to find a free you. But, I have to imprison you, put you into a deep sleep so that no one may disturb you. Do what you will, just release me from this hate. Do it now, Naruto-kun. I'll cast the jutsu, seal it, I mean her. I'm going out. True to her word, Kagaya appeared outside in her full glory. Azazel and Great Red saw her and the former was charmed by her immense beauty, surpassing Gabriel. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, look for me when you wake up. Sleep now, Trihexa, and I shall see you soon. Nihon Shoja no Jutsu, Temple of Nirvana Technique. Kagaya, being a deity of immense power, casted a very powerful version of the sleeping genjutsu due to having near endless chakra levels. Naruto, Uzumaki, with that, Trihexa's multiple eyes began to close, and as soon as they closed, the beast slowly fell towards the sea. Naruto did not allow that and flew down to grab Trihexa by one of her tails and threw her upwards, until she suspended above the sea. Soon, the adamantine sealing chains appeared out of nowhere and began to surround her immense body. The chains then began to bound each of her heads, then the limbs, the tails, and her wings. For safety measures, I'll also use Enkidu. Arikidu. Ten no Kusari. Naruto called out to the greatest secret inside his treasury and soon, another set of chains appeared out of nowhere and began to surround Trihexa, above the adamantine sealing chains, and it then formed a spherical prison around the massive body. Was using Enkidu necessary? Kagaya asked as Naruto made Trihexa's chained body float higher and made some hand signs and soon, a spherical barrier with patterns around it covered the Enkidu chains. Now, for the key, a golden chalice appeared in front of Naruto and soon, the chalice began to glow in a golden light, and the same happened with the barrier. It means, Naruto made the chalice the key to removing the barrier, nothing more, nothing less. Without the chalice, the barrier will never open, unless Naruto forcibly opens it when the time comes. No, that was a safety measure, to ensure that no one, except for me, can fully release Trihexa from the prison, and actually wake her up. And, I'm having the Holy Grail be the key to the barrier. But without the right spell, it cannot be opened. Naruto replied as his eyes changed to his dojutsu. Time to pack things up. Rikudo, Chibaku Tensai. Naruto outstretched both his arms that now bears the mark of the sun and moon. This was the same jutsu that sealed Kagaya the first time and would have been the second time, if not for Naruto sealing Kagaya into himself. What is he doing? Azazel muttered as he watched Naruto seal Trihexa. He was surprised to see Naruto's prowess into sealing things, especially at this scale. The old man sealing the beast, he should have just killed it. I don't know what he's doing. Great Red said to Azazel, who continued to watch as huge rocks coming underneath sea began to surround the spherical barrier. Soon, the barrier can no longer be seen because it is already covered by a massive amount of rocks that is forming a perfect sphere. Azazel, and Great Red was shocked at the size of the sphere. Damn, is this how the moon was formed? Azazel whistled as asked to himself as they saw that the rock sphere continues to increase its size, now thrice the size of Trihexa, before it stopped. Done. Now, to the ends of the world you go. Naruto controlled the sphere and it began to float upwards to the sky, before vanishing into thin air. And so, ends the duel against the beast of the apocalypse. He muttered as he looked to Kagaya, who smiled sadly at him. We'll make sure to save Trihexa from whatever is affecting her. I know, come on, let's go back to the brats, they must be gawking at us, Naruto said as they began to fly back towards Azazel and Great Redar. Damn old man, where did you put it? Azazel asked, but Naruto won't give him a specific answer, not yet, not until the time is right. Somewhere, far away, where you don't need to concern yourself, he answered, making the fallen angel sigh. That was the best he would get from Naruto. Why seal it? Why not just outright kill the beast, old man? Great Red asked, making Naruto looked at the Dragon of Dragons, whom now doesn't have the armor as Naruto removed it earlier. Because I'm going to find out something, and Red, thank you for your help. Go now, we'll see each other soon. Hey, I'll count on you about that. Great Red vanished back to wherever he lives these days. Azazel, you should go too, he's here. The Father of the Universe said to the leader of the fallen angels, who raised an eyebrow. Who's here? Besides you, Mother, and I. Lucifer. Azazel's eyes widened, before hearing a voice from behind him. It seems nothing ever get past you, eh? Father. You're a fool as always. I only feel pity for you, child. Naruto said to the silver-haired man whose face showed with anger at his words. Pity? I don't need your pity. You are a pathetic excuse of a father. Naruto chuckled at his son, who became angrier by the second. I may not have been the best father to you, but remember, without my existence, you are nothing. Remember that, kid, nothing. With every word that Naruto said, it made Lucifer angrier every second. The same can be said for his other two companions, Asmodeus and Beelzebub. Today, we shall destroy you, no matter what the cost. Do you fools even know what you are doing? I raised all of you, to do good for the world. Yet you've done the opposite. You are all ungrateful. Your mother is right. I should have killed you three a long time ago. Naruto sighed in disappointment to the three that came to face him. Too late for that, Asmodeus said. Really, then where is Leviathan? He asked mockingly. Where is she? Beelzebub shouted while the other two looked at Naruto with a serious face, while also readying for battle. She came to me and asked for forgiveness. What can you say about that? Of the four of you, she was always the voice of reason. Maybe that's why she turned her back against your kind. She may have seen the folly of your actions. Can you say the same? There was no vocal answer on his question, only Lucifer flying towards him with his jeweled trident covered in fire. Shinra Tensei. Naruto said in his mind as Lucifer was thrown backward by a very powerful force down to the sea. But the leader of the devils managed to avoid falling down the waters with excellent control of his 12 bat-like wings. With this, Asmodeus and Beelzebub flew towards him with their weapons, a spear and a sword respectively. Die! They shouted as they closed into Naruto, who created a magic shield to block both. It was a magic circle with runes and patterns all over it. From behind, Lucifer tried to stab him with his trident, but he soon knew it was a terrible idea, because he got slashed by a sword made of pure light, and it burned through him after Naruto pushed away the other two devils. You feel it, don't you? How much light can hurt your kind? The blonde stated as the silver-haired devil glared at him while trying to ease the pain in his left shoulder. It is but a small price for what you've done. You may have removed much of your original abilities, there is no doubt, that you are all still my children. And what parents do to children? They discipline them. However, in your case, discipline is beyond you. Naruto said as he summoned the true Longinus to his right hand as the three devil lords managed to get their bearings right as they circled him in the air. It is a small price to pay. Father, Beelzebub sneered at him while Asmodeus gripped his weapon tighter. Lucifer did the same with his trident. How he came to possess a trident is beyond Naruto, as it was always Poseidon of the Greek pantheon who wields a trident. The blonde god left no openings as three surrounded him. He was basically impenetrable, which allowed to size up his foes. But the hesitation of killing three of his sons is still there, a mere fraction, but it's still there. From Naruto's viewpoint, the three wasn't very prepared for this battle. Lucifer got slashed easily with a mere sword of light, but then, it is Naruto, the very personification of the name God, that we are talking about. The word, mere, for him may mean lethal to any being other than him. But it could also mean that he was lax on honing his battle skill, a bit shocking since they did declare a war after all. But in times past, he was the most powerful angel Naruto ever created. He was, but he still is, the Morning Star. That title was never lost to him after he fell. Though, the most powerful, he wasn't the most beautiful. That right belongs to Gabriel, Naruto's second daughter, as far as everyone is concerned, though, not many know that it was Lilith that is the most beautiful being that Naruto ever created. A goddess and his eldest child, on par with her mother, Kaguya. The blonde could only wonder about the status of his beloved eldest child, being the wife of Lucifer, and being called as the mother of all devils. You can say that in all of Naruto's children, Lilith was the closest and dearest to his heart. Beelzebub, for the most part, looks like the one that is most prepared for this fight. His stance was not stiff, it was well balanced for defense and offense. His sword looks like it was well polished and his armor looks well maintained. In conclusion, he was the most prepared but his strength still pales in comparison to Lucifer. And lastly, Asmodeus. He was fine, as far as Naruto is concerned. He still maintained his strength like he always did when they were angels back in the past. He was always the brains of the four leaders that betrayed him. He never overdoes things, and prefers to keep everything at balance and to always think 2 steps ahead of his enemies. But Naruto has already seen every outcome in the battle unless they pull out something surprising. They'll never get out of Naruto's calculation of the battle, from which, all the outcomes are them dying by his hand. You know you three are going to die today, right? Or are you all so foolish to think you can kill me? Naruto asked, not to sound arrogant, but he knows that his power is beyond measure than anything in this universe, with Kaguya coming second. No matter, we will never give up. Naruto couldn't help but crack a smile. They all got that from him, the guts to never give up, no matter what. You really are my children, a pity. I have to end your lives for the sake of a better world. No, a better universe. Naruto got a sad smile on his face before focusing back on the battle, but not before glancing around as he saw Kagaya hid so she could watch the battle unfold before her eyes. Why are you toying with them? Finish it. The blonde heard his wife whisper into his mind as she watched the battle between the four of them. I will, but can you feel two signatures closing by? 10 kilometers away and coming in fast? Naruto asked Kagaya as he continued to observe the three Satans circling him. Lilith, and Leviathan. Kagaya answered him as he began to think of what is going to happen when those two got here. Where did you bring Leviathan anyway? Just a few miles away from your battle with Trihexa. Kagaya answered him as he inhaled and exhaled deeply. I haven't seen Lilith for some 1,000 years, damn. This is not the reunion I was hoping for. Here I am, fighting her husband to death. I wonder what she would say. Naruto sighed as he prepared to use a jutsu Madara only used twice. Tengai Shinsei. Naruto's voice thundered in the air, like a god dealing judgment. Soon, the sky grew dark and the three of the four Satans looked up and froze where they are standing. I am possible, you've got be jesting me, what is this? Same time, a few kilometers away equals. What the fuck is that? Leviathan asked to herself as she flew towards the raging battle as she saw the sky becoming dark. A shadow above the clouds and it is coming down. That's one of Dad's overpowered techniques, Lilith said as she flew with her younger sister towards the source of battle. How overpowered? That shadow we're seeing right now is the shadow of a massive meteor that Dad can summon from the asteroid belt through opening rifts in the spacetime located in the Earth's lower orbit. If the first one is stopped somehow, he'll call another one and it would 10 times larger than the first. Lilith explained as they continued to fly towards where Naruto is. Damn. What if he calls the second one? Leviathan asked, curious and scared of what Naruto will do. I hope he doesn't because that will leave a huge scar on the face of the earth. She grimly said to Leviathan as they continued their way. Back to the battle. What are you doing? You'll destroy everything. Lucifer shouted to Naruto as the clouds broke and revealed a flaming meteor coming down at them. Then try and stop it, Naruto stated, crossing his arms over his chest as he went on to use his complete Susanoo, towering over them all as the meteor continued its fall. You two, together. Lucifer shouted to Beelzebub and Asmodeus, who nodded and began to channel their powers, and Naruto was to say at least, he's impressed at the increasing power levels of the three Satans, and he began to wonder if Leviathan is with them. They'll be as strong as Hades in his full power and all four of them combine their powers. Naruto thought as he watched the three of them concentrate their powers to create a beam of something he looks forward to seeing. Maybe that's why they managed to conquer much of the underworld when they rebelled. Kagaya asked, now back inside Naruto's mindscape. That's the only possible reason, and those two daughters of ours is coming close. Naruto replied as he saw the three Satans finished gathering their energy and focused themselves towards the space rock. A few moments later, they fired a huge beam of destruction towards the incoming meteor, and it began to clash with the fiery rock, and soon, it cracked, then an explosion, a very large one, and it broke the meteor in many pieces that vary in sizes. Ho! Impressive, but, Dad. Naruto looked behind, still inside his Susanoo, and saw Lilith, as beautiful as ever. Lilith-chan, as beautiful as ever, Naruto muttered with a widening smile appearing on his face. Lilith, Leviathan. Lucifer shouted, winded from using that destruction spell. The same can be said for Beelzebub and Asmodeus. But Lilith ignored him and went towards Naruto, followed by Leviathan, and unknown to Naruto, Lucifer and Lilith's marriage deteriorated so much that she left him because of the devils declaring war against heaven. Lilith did not want that, and Leviathan was forced to agree because she was outnumbered in the voting when they were planning to declare war. Dad. You don't know how much I missed you, Lilith said to Naruto, who dismissed his complete Susanoo to receive the hug of her daughter, which he returned. I missed you too, princess. Naruto whispered to her as Leviathan smiled, but feeling a little jealous because their earlier meeting wasn't very nice. What are you doing? Lucifer demanded as the three Satans watched Lilith hugged her father, their father, lovingly. Leviathan? What happened to you? Beelzebub shouted to Leviathan, who glared at them angrily. Nothing happened to me. I am just rectifying the mistake I did all those years ago. I should have never joined the three of you. The three were taken aback by Leviathan's statement, and they stared at her with shock and betrayal seen in their eyes. Lucifer managed to get out of his shock, shouted back at her. How dare you? I knew I should have never asked you to join us, insolent bitch. Lucifer was about to say another thing, but he got punched by none other than Lilith in his gut, sending him a few meters back, luckily not falling down the sea. Don't you fucking dare shout at my sister like that. Lilith growled angrily before turning to Beelzebub and kicked him in his torso and then throwing a beam of fire towards Asmodeus, who were fortunate enough to create a magic shield to protect himself from Lilith's cosmic fire. But she wasn't known to be the most powerful child of God for nothing, and the magic shield broke and burned Asmodeus' hands. Gah! Lilith sent him flying away with a kick to his gut, while Naruto whistled behind. Lilith-chan. You haven't changed a bit, you still got that temper of yours, Naruto said as he flew towards her with Leviathan following him, still silent from her outburst. You said I got that from my grandma from the tales you've told me. Naruto smiled before chuckling and nodded, saying, yes. Leave those three to me, Lilith, Leviathan. Naruto turned serious while his daughters nodded and turned to the recovering devils. Why you bitch? Lucifer rasped, clutching his gut in pain. Lilith's monstrous punches are nothing to laugh at. Fuck you, asshole. Why did I even bothered marrying you, Kaiten? Gokakyu no Jutsu. She created a large fireball that launched towards Lucifer, could barely dodge it out of instinct, but a part of his clothes was charred. I thought I told you that, leave them to me? Naruto asked his daughter, amused by her actions, and she had the decency to blush. Sorry, can't help it. And with that, she and Leviathan fall back to a safe distance to watch their father. Shinra Tensei. Naruto raised his left arm to his left and Beelzebub flew back, crashing down the sea, creating a small wave down below. Time to end this, Naruto muttered as 10 truth-seeking balls appeared on his back and his shakuho appeared on his left arm. He then flew upwards to Asmodeus and shouted. It's over, Asmodeus, farewell. Nunoboku no Ken. Naruto's shakuho turned into a large double helix-shaped sword and used it to cut down Asmodeus, who tried to dodge it, but failed. When the sword launched to Asmodeus, it created a black-colored wave and destroyed Asmodeus' body on the inside, but the body remained intact. And so, ends the life of Mao Asmodeus, at the hand of their father. The body then fell towards the sea, where he will be buried in the passing sands of time. Asmodeus! You bastard! Beelzebub shouted, and he then charged towards Naruto, who reformed the sword of Nunoboku back to its medium, his shakuho. Naruto then thrust the top end of his staff or the ringed sun to Beelzebub's core of energy, or his gut, and was pushed back. Lucifer then came from behind with a beam of fire coming from his hands, though Naruto used the bottom end, or the crescent moon, to cut through the fire and made it disappear. With that, Lucifer created a magic circle to create fire spears towards Naruto, who spun his staff to act as a shield and destroyed the fire spears. Futon. Daitapa. Naruto created a very powerful gust of the wind that pushed Lucifer back, tearing some his attire, before he turned back to Beelzebub, but he wasn't going to let the devil recuperate enough to attack him again. Goodbye, Beelzebub. Kinrin Tensei Baku. Naruto recreated a jutsu ages ago that without the need for Tensigen and using one of his Gudadama. He focused tremendous amounts of chakra into it and he grasped it with his right arm and a giant golden sword of pure chakra and focused it towards the glaring Beelzebub and created a single blast of pure chakra, blowing Beelzebub away. A huge swath of the ocean, creating a very large tsunami and the ground beneath the waves. It killed him effectively, and so ends the life of Mao Beelzebub. This time, there was no trace of a body left. Damn, that is overpowered, Lilith whispered while Leviathan nodded silently with wide eyes. She has no intention of getting hit by that thing ever. Now, for the last one, Naruto turned towards to the seething Lucifer, no doubt because his two allies are dead, but now, he truly realized Naruto's power is beyond any comprehension. He never underestimated them, he just toyed with them and he could have ended the battle before it even began. And the thought made him angrier and angrier every passing second. Anger clouded his judgment and charged towards Naruto at high speeds. With his excellent flying skills, he intends to end the battle as his trident was covered in fire, planning to skewer Naruto, but he wasn't going to allow that, and his trident clashed with Naruto's shakuho, creating a shockwave from the clash. Without any warning, Lucifer was sent back as Naruto created 8 shadow clones that flew beside him. Senpo. Cho Biju Rasen Shuriken. This was the second time he used this jutsu in his entire life, and the first was against Kaguya, whom now his wife, and she can't be helped but remember that time when they fought, and she personally knows how devastating the effect of that jutsu, and this time, it was more powerful than ever. The 8 clones and the original Naruto threw their respective variants of the Rasen Shuriken towards Lucifer, who didn't have time to dodge, and every single 9 of them hit him, and the last thing he heard was, "Farewell, Morning Star, my son." And he knew no more, and so ends the story of Mao Lucifer, with it, his dreams and ambitions, and today, Naruto proved that he will not hesitate to act even if it is his own children committed a crime. To say the explosion was simply marvelous is an understatement, to say the least. It defined the very word itself. It was called a marvelous ninjutsu of the time during the days when Naruto was still young. The sheer power and beauty of this jutsu earned its right to be called the Kuzenzetsugo no Ninjutsu. Beautiful, Leviathan muttered as she and Lilith watched the brightest explosion they've ever seen. Considering that they never saw the very explosion that created the universe, it is perfectly fine. The two stared at Naruto's back. The truth-seeking orbs are gone, as well as his staff. He just hovered there, staring at the explosion, until it vanished, leaving nothing but the raging waves of the sea beneath them. "Dad!" Lilith called, flying towards Naruto, whose back faced them as he continued to stare at the horizon. She nudged his shoulders, and when glanced down at her, she saw tears silently falling from his eyes. It was the first time he shed tears of sadness since the last of his closest friends died. He smiled sadly at her before wiping the tears with his hands. The barrier vanished as well, it was no longer needed. "What is it? What are you going to do? Trouble will brew in the underworld," she stated as Leviathan came towards them. "I will not go back there, not yet," she stated while Naruto nodded. "Well, for now, we're going to lay low. I don't want to return to heaven yet. Let them think that I died here. I need to get some well-earned rest. It's not every day you see a father ending their own children's lives." Naruto's shoulders slumped before looking towards his 2 daughters and held the hands. "Let's go." And a huge explosion of light covered the entire world, and when it vanished, they were gone, only a quiet sea and warm wind. God vanished in the face of the universe, and all the other deities felt it, but they do not know what happened, nor they would ever find out, but they felt his presence just vanished, no trace of any kind. And no one would see Naruto Uzumaki as god of the universe, for 400 years. Beautiful, Leviathan muttered as she and Lilith watched the brightest explosion they've ever since. Considering that they never saw the very explosion that created the universe, it is perfectly fine. The two stared at Naruto's back. The truth-seeking orbs are gone, as well as his staff. He just hovered there, staring at the explosion, until it vanished, leaving nothing but the raging waves of the sea beneath them. "Dad!" Lilith called, flying towards Naruto, whose back faced them as he continued to stare at the horizon. She nudged his shoulders, and when glanced down at her, she saw tears silently falling from his eyes. It was the first time he shed tears of sadness since the last of his closest friends died. He smiled sadly at her before wiping the tears with his hands. The barrier vanished as well, it was no longer needed. "What is it? What are you going to do? Trouble will brew in the underworld," she stated as Leviathan came towards them. "I will not go back there, not yet," she stated while Naruto nodded. "Well, for now, we're going to lay low. I don't want to return to heaven yet. Let them think that I died here. I need to get some well-earned rest. It's not every day you see a father ending their own children's lives." Naruto's shoulders slumped before looking towards his 2 daughters and held hands. "Let's go." And a huge explosion of light covered the entire world, and when it vanished, they were gone, only a quiet sea and warm wind. And no one would see Naruto Uzumaki as god of the universe, for 400 years. Story start. How can such a magnificent artist disappear from this world? She cried as the people who betrayed her came close. She began to think of the things that happened to her. She heard them, her betrayers coming in close, and she held a dagger close to her. "Hark now strikes on my ear the trampling of swift-footed coursers." She quoted Homer's Iliad, then stabbed her throat. But she did not die immediately. A soldier came and delicately wrapped a fur cloak to her body, and she said last. "Too late. Is this your fidelity?" She looked to the soldier who wrapped her body so delicately, but her eyes were blurry and she breathed her last. Her green eyes faded, then closed. And so passes Nero Claudius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, a woman, an artist, and an emperor. Or so she thought. Child, wake up, a voice whispered to her. Slowly, her eyes opened, but saw nothing but darkness. You killed my children, now you are dead. Are you afraid of the people's wrath? Is that why you killed yourself? Nero? The voice asked her, but she didn't reply, she was silent. Who are you? Show yourself. Nero demanded moments later. The voice chuckled and a bright light appeared. When it vanished, she saw herself holding a jeweled spear. It was very beautiful. I am your death. Her replica used the jeweled spear and impaled her on her chest. She felt pain and then. No. She woke up screaming, and she was confused. She sat and looked around. She saw a candlestick on the nightstand. She felt that she was laying down on a very soft and comfortable bed. She then touched the spot where she stabbed her throat, but there was no wound. Then to her chest, nothing. She saw herself wearing her red dress, and she clearly remembers that she was wearing a simple white toga when she took her life. Was that a dream? It felt very real, she thought to herself before she heard a voice. It was a nightmare. She looked at the source of the voice and saw Naruto sitting down a chair, wearing simple clothes. Who are you? She asked him, slightly afraid of him, and it can be clearly seen on her reaction. But there is a regal aura of the sort that surrounds her. However, this was regarded useless by Naruto. It depends on the situation, child. I could be your savior, your family, or your death. Her eyes widened while Naruto remained where he was, calm and collected. You have been dead for more than 1,000 years, Empress Nero. The empire where you were born and ruled no longer exists, and it has been that way for a very long time. History calls you a notorious tyrant, and I know you're not ashamed of it, as you ordered persecution of many religious people, especially the followers of Christus. You also had your mother killed. They also said that you had the city of Rome burned. What do you say about that? Naruto asked her, and as he spoke, her eyes began to tear. It must be because of what he told her about the Roman Empire's collapse. But then, she's not the one to cry just like that. That wasn't her personality. That wasn't how an emperor should act. Am I dead? Nero asked Naruto, who chuckled. You killed yourself. Yes, but I brought you back. Naruto answered her as she looked down to her hands. Then back to Naruto gave her a sad smile. Why? Nero asked him. You were misunderstood because you were incomprehensible. You loved your people that way you thought was right. But they saw it differently, and that difference led to your downfall. Do you regret not being able to express your love the way people can understand so they can return it you? He asked her, and she looked at him with teary eyes, but nothing came out. Why are you asking these questions? You are a woman who can love more than any other person, but you could never experience the joy of being loved in return.
Your lavish expressions of love were not enough to satisfy your people. That is why you hesitated to push the dagger into your throat. The thought of dying without anyone loving you made you hesitate, but you took your own life because you cannot bear being executed by our people. That is why I am asking you, Nero, I want to give you a new chance in life.
How do you know these things? Naruto looked straight into her eyes. From beginning to end I watched your life, because I found it rather sad, especially from an empress who only tried to love her people. I have a soft spot for humans like that. Do you know who was the soldier that delicately wrapped your body as you die? She shook her head, but the earlier statements of his were still on her mind. It was I, the soldier that wrapped your dying body delicately with that cloak. I was not late, Nero, nor it was fidelity. I did it because I believe you have a chance for a better life. You did not die alone. I was there. I took your body away, and brought you here to sleep for the next 1,000 years. So, do you regret it? Not being able to express your love properly? She didn't answer him. Instead, she just looked down at her lap, contemplating about the words of Naruto. They were silent for a few minutes until Nero spoke, still looking down. Yes, I do regret it. Good. Now, do you intend who am I? She looked at him and gave him a nod. Naruto then summoned the true Longinus and her eyes widened. It was the same spear that impaled her in that nightmare. Naruto held the spear and stood up. Let me. With that he tapped her forehead with the bottom end of his spear, and Nero saw everything. From the birth of the gods and then humans, she saw everything in Naruto's eyes. It only took a few minutes and tears fell from her eyes, yet she didn't know why they just came out. And then, it came to her, the realization came. The man in front of her is the supreme god above all the Roman gods, above any gods in existence, above anything, for eternity. And now she realized she served the wrong gods. This is the god that those people back in Rome were following. The ones that was put to death, by her orders, and she didn't regret doing that. but now, she's not certain anymore. Naruto then dismissed the spear back to his pocket dimension and he smiled down at Nero, who looked up to him and said, "I am sorry." He then leaned down and whispered to her, "There is nothing to forgive, my child. You were forgiven years ago and I accepted you for who you were, and for who you will be. I have a question. Please, tell me your woes. Why am I like this? I do not feel the same anymore when I was the empress. I was raised to be an emperor, forced to devote myself to the people. I did what I know was right, but why do I feel remorse for some of my actions? Why am I acting like this? Why?" She looked at him with a tired face. She was exhausted from seeing Naruto's memories, but something also happened, because her original personality that she lived as empress vanished. "You died. I am sorry, but I do not understand what you are referring to. I know I died, but please explain," Nero requested, and he obliged, as he already planned to explain everything to her. "When you took your life, you killed your past, you destroyed everything you believed with your heart, your beliefs are gone too.
Most importantly, your personality changed. When I woke you up from your sleep, I restored your personality before you became an empress. That is why your heart feels that way. I restored the humanity in you, as I have long planned to give you a new chance in life. Do you accept?" A hand was offered to her, and she took it not long after. His smiles are bright as 1,000 suns, and she was fortunate that one graced his face. He was glad how things turned out.
Bodies of knights littered the hills of Camlin as two warriors fought, one of blue and one of red. A blazing battlefield it was. Only them was left alive. They fought hard, all while trying to kill each other. Altria Pendragon, the king of knights, against her daughter, Mordred Pendragon, the knight of treachery. "Why? Why did you not choose me as your successor?" Mordred shouted as she clashed swords with the king. Excalibur against Clarent, two holy swords. They fought in equal footing, but their swords are not the same. Excalibur will always be more powerful than Clarent, as it is one of the original 4 holy swords forged by God, whilst Clarent is one of the lesser holy swords forged by God afterward. "Because you do not have the stature of a king," replied stoically by Altria as they tried to push each other with their swords. But they separated soon after and they stared at each other, panting hard as they have fought for hours now. They looked eerily like each other. Both have small stature, both have golden hair, and both have the same eye color, albeit a shade darker for Mordred, but there are minor differences, such as their attire. One wore blue and the other wore red. Altria's hair is tied into a bun while Mordred had a ponytail. "What makes a king? Answer me!" Mordred shouted, but no reply was given as they charged at each other again. She made a sideward slash but was parried by Altria, who then made a piercing thrust but was deflected to the side. Mordred then made a riposte but Altria parried it and did a counter riposte. Attack from the right, parry to the left, a riposte to the left, parry to the right, then a counter riposte. The two danced with their swords continuously without stopping. "What would father say if he sees us?" Mordred asked, and that question made Altria stopped for a moment, and that one moment is what Mordred only needed to stab Altria, but years of following her combat instincts allowed her to jump back. They clashed again and tried to push each other with their swords again, but this time, Altria summoned her spear, Rongamaniad, and impaled Mordred on her chest. Blood flew out of her mount as they stared at each other's eyes. Mother, Mordred tried to reach out to her but she fell, as Altria pulled out Rongamaniad from her. Altria then coughed out blood and looked down to see Clarent pierced through her abdomen with Mordred's left hand still holding the grip of her sword. Altria removed the sword from her and she was forced to her knees by the wound, but she stabbed Excalibur on the ground to support herself while the other holds her spear. Altria stood up a couple of minutes later and began to drag herself away, and she can feel her life is fading away. Slowly, she went out of sight, while Mordred tried to get up and follow her but she cannot move. It was the end for her. She knew it but she cannot do anything. Until she felt a presence behind her, she tried to look up but was not able to. Mordred, she heard him whisper at her, she knew that voice anywhere. "Fa father?" She then felt him touch the place where her mother's spear pierced her. "Hush now, child, I'm here," Naruto whispered to her as he healed her wound, and when he finished, he pulled her body close to him and she finally saw the sight she hasn't seen for years, her father's face. She reached up to cup his face, tears freely flowing out of her eyes. She'd never been so happy to see her father after a very long time. "Where have you been?" she asked him as she nestled into his arms. while Naruto moved a strand of her hair away from her face then wiped off the tears with his thumb. You wouldn't believe me even unless I showed it to you, but enough talk, sleep my child, sleep, and that she did. Mordred lay in her father's arms peacefully asleep as the sun set behind the mountains of England. Unbeknownst to her, Altria, her mother is dying as she headed for the lake. Mordred won't be waking up until several hundred years later. They condemned her, they scorned her with words of damnation as she was led into the pyre. She felt a slight pain in her heart, but she endured it. Such emotions have been already abandoned by her. Fear, disappointment, and regret, those meant nothing to her now. She walked towards her certain death without faltering in her steps. Unconsciously, she reached for the cross that has been on her chest, but they took it from her earlier. A small sadness she felt, as there is nothing to support her heart. There was an Englishman that revered her and he gave her a wooden cross. She thanked him quietly as the man knelt and wept. Her hands were then tied to a wooden stake behind her, and the priest present began the recitation of her final judgment before the torch was thrown into the pyre, igniting it and began to burn her. As she burned, she saw visions of her past, of her and her family and their village. She knew this would be her end since she left that rustic village. She knew that she may have been foolish on her actions. She could have lived a normal life. She could have got herself a husband and a child. But for her, there was no mistake in doing what she did. Her past, impossible futures, and the cruel reality before her were meaningless before her prayers. She offered herself so that even those who condemn her would be safe, so she would not betray herself. There was one prayer that she kept to herself to the end, one unblemished by anything, only filled with sincerity. O Lord, I give myself unto you, and with it, she breathes her last. Then darkness. Come child. A voice said and light pierced through the darkness and Jean looked up towards the light. And there he was, smiling down at her. Tears slowly fell from her eyes, as what she saw was the sight she longed and his face wasn't covered by the light and she saw his face. Hello, Jean, Naruto said as he flew down to her, but she couldn't answer as Naruto hugged her and she returned it as she openly wept. I am sorry my dear, I should have let you live a normal life, he whispered to her as he kissed her forehead but she shook her head no. No, my lord, I chose my own path and it led me to you, and I am joyful to be with you, she replied to him as he wiped off the tears from her face. Come, there is much I have to show you, said Naruto as he took her hands and led her into the light, then they vanished. She laid there on a boat, her armor stained by her own blood, a fatal wound, by her own child no less, but she no longer cared about that. Long hair sprinkled by gold dust sprawled as she laid there dying. Green eyes shining as she reflected on her personal failures, regretting her life as king, regretting how she acted, and regretting the things she did. Her spear Rangamani laid beside her, stained by the blood of her child. A glance she spared at it, but before long, she stared at the sky, wishing she could live another life, for her country and people, as well as with the father of her child. The last appeal to whoever was listening and God heard her. With that, the king breathed her last, and her last thoughts were heard. Wake up! A distinctly male voice whispered in her ear. With that, her eyes snapped open, and all she saw was a room of light. Where am I? She muttered to herself as laid down on the floor. Here and nowhere, somewhere in between life and death, the voice that came from all directions replied. Who are you? She asked, her eyes looking around but saw nothing, nothing but light. You know who am I, but soon, Altria, soon. First, wake up. Green eyes snapped open. Altria Pendragon woke up. She gasped for air and looked around, only to find that she is on an island, full of trees with birds flying up in the blue sky. The sun shined brightly as they pierced through the shades of the trees, and she felt at peace. She then noticed something. She felt taller than she remembered, so she went to the small pond near her to see her reflection, and when she was taken aback by what she saw, she looked older. Her body transformed from a young one to a mature one. Her face was more refined, her significantly longer golden hair swayed with the wind, and a new armor to fit her body. What happened to me? She muttered to herself. When you died, the effects of pulling Caliburn from the stone was removed, and your appearance changed in relation to your age, said a familiar voice from behind. She looked back immediately and her eyes widened. It was Naruto with a sad smile on his face. You? What are you doing here? She asked him as she walked slowly towards him, with her gauntleted fists clenched. Waking you up, you've been sleeping for hundreds of years, said Naruto as Altria walked closer to him, but stopped when she heard the last part. What did you say? Ah, you've been sleeping for several hundred years. Until today that is, replied Naruto while looking at Altria, who looked shocked and stared at him from a few yards away. How did that come to pass? She asked while Naruto sighed, then replied. I heard your thoughts as you passed. Just like when you asked for an heir. I met you and I gave you one. Altria's eyes widened. A step back she made, followed by another, and another, but she tripped back at the fourth. Her gaze fell upon his eyes and she remembered that night. That one night of passion when she wished to have an heir. She was blessed that night, but her actions afterward led to her downfall. I gave you an heir. What have you done? All our daughter wanted was your attention. The attention you could have given so easily, yet you never did because you believed she was incompetent. You have forsaken your humanity to rule and forgot that you have the responsibilities of a parent. When you pulled that sword out of that stone, you never lost your humanity, it was there all along. To lead and rule as a king is to understand the thoughts and feelings of your people and respond to them in a just way. The people saw you as the ideal king, yet you never understood how to return human feelings, stated Naruto as he looked at Altria, who didn't flinch at his gaze. But Mordred did not as well, she replied, staring at his eyes. Because only she yearned for your attention, I gave her mine, you never did yours, said Naruto, who walked away from her. Wait, she shouted as he walked away, but he stopped and looked back. Where were you when we fought? Where were you when I needed you the most? Where were you, Naruto? I was trying to run the world. You've only known me as a strange man, Altria. It is time for me to tell you who truly I am, stated by Naruto as he summoned his spear and tapped the bottom to Altria's forehead, and like some people before her, she saw everything. She saw all the answers to her questions about humanity and the world. And when Naruto finished showing her his memories, he dismissed the spear while Altria stared at him with wide eyes, and tears that stained her cheeks. Naruto then walked towards her and wiped off the tears from her face. Follow me, we have much to discuss, and our daughter is already there. With that, he walked away while Altria stood up and dusted herself before running towards him, deeper in the forest. Then, they came upon a simple stone house. It doesn't have any notable features. It has 3 windows on either side, a simple wooden door, a chimney at the roof with smoke coming out. Aside from the naturally grown trees on the island, there is a beautiful garden that surrounded the house. Naruto entered the door and Altria followed. When they entered the house, they were greeted by a living room, and in that living room, Altria saw Mordred wearing a white dress with red accent. Next to her is a woman that eerily looked nearly the same as her, wearing a red dress, and she saw another woman. She has a long braided blonde hair that reaches her lower thighs and amethyst eyes. She's wearing a dark gray dress, and the 3 were chatting together. Altria then saw Kagaya reading a book while sipping from her cup. Not that Altria knew who she is. Lilith is also there, chatting with the others as well as Leviathan. When Naruto entered, he sat beside Mordred, and then, the mother and daughter finally saw each other after several hundred years. Mother, you look different, you've aged, said Mordred with an amused smile on her face, and the others looked at Altria. Nero couldn't help but see how similar they look. She, Mordred, and Altria share the same facial structure, with the only difference is that Altria looked older and more mature, and taller, something Mordred found amusing and annoying. Mordred. She muttered. Hello, mother. The last we saw each other, we were trying to kill ourselves and we succeeded in doing so. We both died, as you should know by now, said Mordred, who looked amused. Her anger to Altria long vanished. The rest watched their interaction with silence. Come on, mother. Meet my new friends. Nero, this is my mother, said Mordred, who nudged Nero on her side, who stood up and smiled. I'm Nero Claudius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, the 5th Roman Empress. You must be the king of knights that came upon to lead Britannia after Rome pulled out from the former province a few hundred years after my death. It is nice to meet the mother of my friend here. She bowed slightly at Altria, who returned the gesture, and she knew who exactly this woman is, from memory. Sir Lancelot du Lac called her the whore of Babylon, in passing after the atrocities they learned she did from history, and now she wondered, what is she doing here? Likewise, I am Altria Pendragon, King of England. May I ask, what are you doing here? I learned from history that you were a tyrant? Murderer? I have read a lot about myself in the books that my praetor provided for me. Normally I would be angry if I am called a tyrant in my face, even though I was a tyrant, but a murderer? Never. The only person I killed personally is myself. History is very fickle. Only the victors write history, and I had many enemies. And when I died, I lost and they wrote what you have most probably read just to make sure the future sees me as a despicable person that let the city of Rome burn while I fiddled. The nerve of those bastards. They even wrote about me as a male. Can you believe that? Outrageous. The people of Rome saw that I am a woman, not a man. They called me empress. Dear Lord. Why would they even do that? Nero sighed to herself while Mordred shook her head and Naruto chuckled. Really? I had to hide my body behind my armor at all times during my time as king because they would never accept a woman as king, replied Altria, who sat on the chair close to her. That is just a bunch of nonsense. Is that why you're calling yourself king when you should have been a queen? Nero asked while Altria nodded yes. Let me guess, an arranged marriage to a woman was set up with you. A nod from Altria again, making Nero sighed while wondered how such thing happened. Praetor, why such thing happened? Nero turned to Naruto, who looked at her with a sad smile. This is a curse as written in the book of Genesis, and there are 2 verses that explain it. The first says, I will greatly multiply your pain in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children, yet your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. The second says, if you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is couching at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must master it. There is a parallel between those 2. But you must recognize the connection between the last 2 of the first verse mentioned and the last words of the second. It was like this. Cain is being warned about his resentment and anger against Abel. He was told that sin is about to get the upper hand in his life. He paused before he continued. Notice the end of the second verse says, sin is couching at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must master it. Emphasis on the master should be noted because this literally means, rule over sin. The parallel is so close because the words are virtually the same in Hebrew, and I quote, your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you, and, its desire is for you, but you must master it. This shows us more clearly what was meant by desire in the second verse. You can compare sin crouching at the door of Cain's heart like a lion stalking its prey, waiting for the right moment to strike. This means that sin desires for him, it wants to overpower him, to defeat him and subdue him, so that he can be made a slave of sin. Naruto paused again before he continued. Going back on the first verse mentioned, you would see that the sinful desire of woman means the same meaning as the previous parallel. When it said, your desire shall be for your husband, it means that when sin has the upper hand on the woman, she will desire to overpower or exploit the man. And when sin has the upper hand in man, he will respond in a similar manner with his strength to rule over her. Such a conflict between man and woman has marked so much of human history. Human masculinity and femininity as created in the beginning has been depraved and corrupted by sin, and this will go on until the exploitation of woman by sinful man and man by sinful woman stops, and it can be only stopped when every man and woman is governed by the laws that were written and alluded to in the Holy Bible. With Altria's situation, the people would never accept a woman as their ruler, and her father knew it, so he sent her away to be raised as a man. Clearly, that did nothing good but destroy her later life as king quite badly. That ended up with her being dead. Granted, it worked at the start, but time is a construct that has a way of correcting the world and itself as it was intended to do when anomalies, whether immediately or slowly. You should know, you saw my memories, the same as Eugene, said Naruto to them as Nero and Jean nodded in understanding as they tried to understand what Naruto explained to them. Moving on, Altria, this is Jean, the maid of Orleans. Jean, this is Altria, the king of knights, said Naruto as Jean stood up wearing her gray dress and bowed with a smile to Altria, who returned the gesture in kind. I've read so much about you, your majesty, Jean said to Altria as they sat back down to their chairs. I hope nothing bad was written there, but please, just call me by my name, replied Altria with a smile. Oh, there is nothing to worry about, aside from the fact that you were written off as a man, everything is well. And so the day continued with everyone chatting amongst themselves. Kaguya, Lilith, and Leviathan introduced themselves to Altria as Naruto's wife and daughters. To Altria's silent surprise, she didn't say anything bad about it, she simply understood it. Naruto is not a human and he had someone with him when he created the universe, and she was someone that came from the natural order that he created and woman whose wish was granted when he could have just ignored it. She felt special and she decided she would make sure to cherish her renewed life and new family for as long as the universe exists. Equals 38 years later equals it was a nice peaceful day in their house in the middle of a forest inside an island far away from any large bodies of land. Mordred, Nero, Altria, and Jean learned everything about the world and the world before the current one existed. They were all taught by Naruto, who began to plan about several things for the future of the world, while Kaguya and her daughters continued to live as they have done so for countless years. Sometimes Lilith travels the world with Leviathan, but not before disguising themselves whenever they are in a populated area. They all saw the world move forward, but not without disappointments. Humans innovated, but their nature never changed. Wars still happened. The church was then plagued by corruption, and it was made worse by the Reformation. Something that Naruto called a complete idiotic mess that would have never happened if I'm still at the throne of heaven. His relationship with the women living with him didn't change, except for a notable few: Jean, Mordred, Altria, and Nero. Jean was and still is his most devout follower, and when she was received by him after her death, she followed him without question, and when she was given a new body shortly after the Great War, she expressed much delight in serving him with a real body once more. Throughout the years that she spent with Naruto and the others, everyone was very kind to her, especially Kaguya, who treated her like her own daughter, while Lilith, Leviathan, Nero, Mordred, and Altria treated her like a little sister that everyone loves. But what she truly loved is that Naruto treated her like he does to everyone in his family, full of love, care, and understanding, and she wished to return it in kind. Not just by being a devout follower, she wants to return it the way Kaguya, Lilith, Leviathan, and Altria does, but afraid of doing so. Yes, Jean has fallen for Naruto, her god, and the one she devoted her entire life, even to her death. He was the one on her mind, and years ago, he gave her a new life that she can enjoy without the stress of leading her people into war. A life that she can enjoy with the one she devoted her entire life. She just wished she can show him her feelings, but she suspects he knows, he is God after all. My lord, I wish I could show you my feelings without any hesitation on my heart. Mordred loved her father, more so than anyone would think. He raised her and taught her everything about the world, while her mother pretended to be a man to rule as king. Something she hated about her and the world. But she loved her mother all the same. But she wished Altria returned those feelings when she ruled as king. But ever since her father reunited her with her mother, their relationship began to mend properly, and they began to truly love each other as mother and daughter. Something she thanked her father for allowing such a thing to happen. And throughout the years she spent living with her father, the only man in her life after her supposed death, she learned why her mother fell for him. It is because he was the definition of the perfect husband for life, for her. Kaguya is very, very lucky to have someone like him since the beginning. They were the father and the mother of the universe, and she knew she was very special to have a father like him, not just spiritually but biologically. And being the only man in her life that did something properly. She can't help but feel the same way as her mother does to him. She began to see him in a different light, she fell for him hard, and being his daughter, humans would be condemning her for her feelings. But she was never a human, to begin with. The rules humans made does not apply. She is a biological daughter of God, born of love and passion. Only a few can say the same way. Then she also learned that Lilith and Leviathan are the same. But the difference is that they show it openly, something she wants to do, but afraid of what might happen, though, she suspects the others know, especially Naruto, because he can read her like an open book. Ah, father, I just love you too damn much, I cannot help it. Altria enjoyed her new life. For the last 38 years, she loved everything about her new life. She loved everyone she is living with. She enjoyed honing her skills with everyone, and most of all, she loved Naruto, with all her heart and soul. She enjoyed talking with Kaguya and her daughters, as well as her occasional banter with Mordred, whom she began to treat like how a mother should treat her daughter after Naruto reunited them after their deaths and resurrection. And all she can say is that she loves her life and Naruto. This is the utopia that I have wished for long. Nero had profusely thanked Naruto for everything, because he made her feel special, that everything she did during her life as an empress was considered worthless and stupid. But now that she is free from any responsibility, she focused on her art. She loved painting and creating music. She was and still is an artist at the heart, something Naruto encouraged her, so she began to produce many paintings. For instance, she painted a quiet scene of Kaguya staring far away towards the ocean. Another is Lilith drinking tea while reading a book by a window, and there was also one where Mordred and Jean are happily sparring with their swords in the forest. But her most favorite is the one with Naruto in his full armor. Wielding the true Longinus, his golden-tiered halo, and his 24 golden wings opened wide. It was the scene when he arrived at the battlefield to confront the two heavenly dragons as she has seen in the memories that Naruto shared to her. For the last 38 years that she spent with Naruto and his family, she can't help but feel jealous of Kaguya, her daughters, and Altria. Because they openly show that they love him more than anything, she can clearly see why they do. In her perspective, Naruto loves too much but gets so little in return. As he once told her, he loved his creations so much he gave them the will to choose freely. He redeemed them by having his eldest son die then resurrected to complete the system of miracles. The Son and the Holy Spirit were joined together inside the system and as such, they no longer exist as a person, but as the main component of the system that manages all the miracles that bless special humans and sorts out all the prayers that come from all the humans that pray to God. If she was Naruto, she'll never be able to do such a thing, to destroy the two of the three people that make up the idea of godhood. It must have been so hard for him to do so. They were his first creations, the Son and the Holy Spirit, and they were the first to go, and as Lady Kaguya says, for the greater good. She cannot say it to his face directly, but she fell in love with him all the same, just like the others did, and it's hurting her. Sometime later I'm going to get dressed, said Naruto as he began to walk out of the room after they all ate their breakfast cooked by Lilith. Where are you going? Asked Kaguya, who looked at him as she finished off her food and drank from a glass of water while the others looked at him with the same question etched on their faces. Underworld. A civil war started. I'm going to get dressed, said Naruto as he began to walk out of the room after they all ate their breakfast cooked by Lilith. Where are you going? Asked Kaguya, who looked at him as she finished off her food and drank from a glass of water while the others look. After the four Satans was killed and God's mysterious disappearance at the end of the Great War, heaven has secluded itself while keeping discreet and small contacts with both the Catholic Church and Eastern Orthodox Church. In the underworld, however, is an entirely different story. It was in the year 1538 when a civil war erupted between the remaining houses of 72 pillars of underworld as more than half of the devil household were destroyed during the height of the Great War. 45 years after the Great War, a group of the descendants of Lucifer, Leviathan, Beelzebub, and Asmodeus intended on continuing the war so that they may pursue their goal of total world domination. Unknown to them that Lilith and Leviathan abandoned the devils to go back their father. However, they were opposed by a certain group of devils and the civil war erupted. Naruto received the news from one of his clones scouring the world. Disguised as how the locals appear in the places the clones go, and went to the underworld, a former territory of heaven and where human souls used to be kept after they die before going into judgment or eternally imprisoned there. But since the rebellion a very long time ago, human souls were put in stasis after they die in their own corpse. With a few special ones gets directly sent to heaven for their good deeds and being faithful to God, and as such, they were called the saints. In the present, Naruto walked past a ruined settlement deep inside the war zone of the underworld, and judging from its appearance, it was burned down recently, not even a day passed. He saw some fresh bodies of deceased innocent devils that were most likely murdered. The majority were women, with some men and children. It was a farming settlement in the underworld. Naruto sighed sadly as he stopped at each body and took their sleeping souls and placed them inside a glowing orb for unknown reasons before he destroyed their bodies and wiped off the ruined settlement and allowed nature to take over at a fast rate. After doing that, he continued on his way towards the battle that he can hear from a distance. Slowly, he walked, wearing a dark blue sweatshirt with red stripes, black pants, and sandals. He also has his shuriken holster on his right knee, kunai pouch on his hip, and over his sweatshirt is a dark green flak jacket with 3 scroll pouches on each side of the chest. It also has a neck guard, extra padding on the shoulders fastened on by steel buttons, and a zipper down the middle. It also has the symbol of the Uzumaki clan integrated into the back of the jacket. And above all of this, is a white high-collared trench coat with 6 black magatamas around the high collar, and on its back is the pattern of the Rinne Sharingan with a pattern of 9 magatamas arranged in rows of 3 beneath it. He can sense that there was an intense battle going on between a group of people versus a single woman, a powerful one from what Naruto can determine from her signature, though her enemies are also quite powerful, but not as powerful as her, but they are wearing her down. The battle must have been going on for a while. Graphia knew that she is very powerful. Hailing from the house Lucifuge, the servants of Lucifer, she possesses an extreme amount of magical power. Her affinity to ice is one of the strongest out there, only to be rivaled by one woman, Seraphal from House Seatree from the anti-Satan faction as they call themselves. But she knows she isn't going to last long in this battle of hers, not with the low level of magical reserves that she has right now. She has killed a lot of her assailants already, but more have arrived seeking to kill her. At first, she dispatched them easily, but her enemies are also powerful and she's beginning to feel tired of this long-drawn battle. To her mind, she would have prayed to God for help if she wasn't a devil. She was there years ago, when God fought and easily destroyed the 2 heavenly dragons. She felt God's overwhelming powers and she'll never forget that day as she watched how he destroyed the 2 dragons without any effort while the said dragons nearly destroyed them all if not for the 3 factions fighting a common enemy just to hold the dragons back. She can't help but feel that Lucifer was a fool to declare war against God when the said being can destroy literally anything. She saw Leviathan openly disagreed with the war but was outvoted, so the war came and devastated the world. Graphia personally doesn't believe that God died, it is just impossible, but she never told anyone of what she thought, and she also has suspicions that Leviathan is also alive and well, but merely hiding from the underworld, like Lilith whom they never heard from after the Great War began. It was just like she was spirited away. Going back to the fight, Graphia managed to freeze one of the attackers and shattered the ice, effectively killing the poor man. That was 1 down. Now there are 5 more and she could only hope there would be help coming to her. Even if there is none, because no one besides her superiors know where she is as she was sent to scout the areas where some soldiers of the opposition were hiding. Instead, she found a full garrison a few kilometers away. She tried to escape but she was followed, and that led to her predicament right now. But, she is getting a gut feeling that someone is coming. She doesn't know if it was an enemy, which is more likely, or an ally, which is less likely, or neither at all. She can feel it, and she doesn't know what to think of it, therefore, she just continued to focus on the battle.
Somewhere in the northern Pacific. Altria Pendragon, the once and future king and the king of knights, is tired and is terribly hungry. She sat in Naruto's planning room, thinking of things that she can do with what Naruto left her before he went away. She was given a stack of large sketch papers to draw her ideas about the family coat of arms Naruto has thought of, and she was the first to volunteer, and she's beginning to regret that, but she doesn't want to disappoint and she continued her work.
Still not finished. And there is one voice she didn't want to hear at times, especially right now when she is a bit frustrated and busy. She looked up at and paused what she was doing and looked at the other person in the room, with an annoyed expression. "Don't start," she grumpily said before looking back down to what she was doing, but she continued to feel annoyed at the person watching her amusedly. "Don't start with what, mother?" Altria ignored her and continued with what she was doing whilst under the amused gaze of the other person, her daughter, Mordred. "Mordred, can you please not do that? I'm busy here, go bother someone else." "But, mother, I am here to call you for lunch. Why are you angry?" She got her there. This is a common scene in their everyday lives. Ever since Naruto awakened both Altria and Mordred, they've butted heads whenever he is away, but they love each other like how a mother and daughter act, much to the secret entertainment of Lilith, Nero, and Jean, who thinks they act the same way as Kagaya and Leviathan. I'm not angry, just a bit, just go, I'll be there." She motioned her to get out, which she did while whistling a catchy tune, which made Altria's annoyance increase tremendously. She's mocking her. What a pair of mother and daughter. Underworld. Naruto Uzumaki watched from a short distance as the silver-haired woman fought off her pursuers. He can see the woman as a fighter, a fierce one at that, and she interested him. Coming down from the line of Lucifuge, they've served the house Lucifer since before they fell from heaven. Lucifer and Lucifuge were close as brothers, and when they openly rebelled, Lucifuge pledged himself and his family to the service of Lucifer's house. Their unique traits are the silver hair, which they shared with Lucifer's descendants. Their family is a great powerhouse, a servant powerhouse that is. But this woman is as beautiful as she is different. She has the potential to be more powerful than her ancestor, and such talents cannot be wasted to fools who wanted war and destruction above anything else. Kagaya Haim would like her, he muttered before walking towards the battle with nonchalance, and he can clearly see that the woman is struggling a bit, but she's managing to fend off her opponents. "You think so?" Lilith said as she followed him as they watched the battle rage on. "Yeah, I think so. Do you want to save her now or something, or I'll do it myself, but she'll recognize me immediately, she did serve me once." I'll do it, it will be easier, and you're pregnant, don't stress yourself. And whose fault was that? She slyly said to him, but he looked at her with a smile. It was actually yours. Ask your mother, even Altria, Mordred, Nero, Jean, and Leviathan. They'll point at you. None of what happened was my fault, it's all yours, darling, all yours, so, see you. Before Lilith even managed to reply, Naruto vanished, leaving a gobsmacked daughter. That damn bastard, she said to herself with a chuckle. Equals with the battle equals. I think a stop in this pointless battle must be put in order, don't you think? He said as the fighters stopped and looked at him. Who the hell are you? A man demanded, but he was frozen on his steps by Naruto, who looked at him with a small smile. No one important, just a traveler. I'm really just curious why you are attacking this young woman here when you clearly outnumber her, he said calmly. He also noticed some of the attackers of the woman was rather taken aback by his statement. Young woman. This woman is a monster, she killed a lot of our allies. One of them shouted as they were all frozen in their places by Naruto. Well, maybe she's just trying to defend herself, as far as I can see. You look like the bad guys, don't you think? He gave them a small smile before he continued. But, I'm not here for that, I'm here for her, and you can go now, farewell. What? And they all vanished and was teleported somewhere. The silver-haired woman just stared at him silently. Now, that's done, Miss Lucifuge, someone is looking for you, said Naruto as he turned to the young woman readying herself for an attack. Who are you? I shall tell you later when the time is right, and she'll be here right about now. And Lilith appeared behind Naruto, and the eldest child of Naruto immediately looked towards the woman. Hello, Graphia. The woman, named Graphia, widened her eyes as she looked at Lilith. The woman that she hasn't seen for some time. Lady Lilith. They said you vanished during the war. Why are you here? She looked at Lilith with shock while the said woman merely smiled at her. All in due time, dear, but first, come with us. Where are we going? Away from this war. Graphia looked at Lilith with silence while Naruto watched the two interact. But the descendants of the original four, and your children with Lord Lucifer, they would be very happy to see you. Much to her shock, Lilith became a little angry at the mention of those people, but she calmed herself down. Forget about them, they can die for all I care, let's go. Lilith grabbed Graphia's hand and vanished, followed by Naruto, who shook his head before vanishing as well. It was early in the afternoon in their small house, as Kagaya, Leviathan, Altria, Mordred, Nero, and Jean started to eat their lunch cooked by Leviathan, who began to like cooking food during her tenure as a leader of the underworld, and the others must admit, it was good. But in Altria's terms, it was delicious, and she's so hungry, so she continued to munch down her food a bit faster than normal, while Mordred ate quietly as Kagaya and Leviathan ate like noble ladies, with proper elegance and decorum. So, Jean, are you going to tell him yet? Breaking out of her silence, Kagaya asked Jean, who was about to drink some water and stopped from doing so as she looked back to Kagaya with an owlish look on her face. Ah, what? That was her intelligent response. It has been 45 years, you know. It is hard not to notice how you look at him. Just go and tell him. Gather your strength and just say it to him. The same for you, Mordred, Nero. The two looked at her with shocked faces, while Altria and Leviathan just smiled at them. Ha! The two of you are like sisters, that I can read one book and already know the contents of the other. Both of you acts almost the same way as each other, it's quite entertaining, you know. And for the three of you, it is so painfully obvious that even he knows about it already. He is just waiting for you to say it to his face, right, Lilith? On a cue, Lilith appeared, Graphia following shortly. Yes, mother, by the way, I brought someone with me, said Lilith as everyone looked at her, then to Graphia. Ah, Graphia Lucifuge, stated Leviathan, who recognized the woman, and the woman recognized her as well. Lady Leviathan? She suddenly exclaimed as the said woman just gave her a smile. It has been some time since I last you, she said as Graphia stared at her. Where have you been? Everyone has been looking for you, as well as Lady Lilith, Graphia said to them as Lilith sat on a chair by the table. Sit down here and I'll tell you a story. Leviathan pointed at the chair on her right, and the silver-haired woman went on and sat on the chair. Then, Leviathan began to tell her story, as well as Lilith. Then, they told her what happened after the Great War, about Naruto, about everything that they did, and it took some time to finish. And Graphia being shocked was a huge understatement. Everything she learned was quite mind-opening, and once again, her guts proved her right. God is alive, but she's wondering, where is he? Where is now? You just met him, Graphia, that man that saved you, that's God himself, my one and only dearest father, Lilith stated, and Graphia widened her eyes. What? Equals City of Lilith. Headquarters of the anti-Satan faction equals. Sirzek's Gremory is a strong young man, he knows that to himself, but he doesn't make a fuss about it. The war is going on well for their side. But something bothers the crimson-haired man, and it is the man he and his closest friends met earlier. They saw him walking towards somewhere and they talked to him, asked him questions, and when they learned that he is not a part of the old Satan faction, they let him go. But they forgot one thing, they never asked what being is he. Because he was exuding an aura that made them very comfortable with his presence, and he didn't like it one bit. That man is dangerous if he can make anyone feel like that by his mere presence. He can make his enemies drop their guards and he can dispatch them easily, and something about him bothers him. Thinking about that man. A black-haired woman with violet eyes asked him in a serious tone, in contrast to her cheerful and childlike personality, they're fighting a war after all. Yes, Seraphal, that man is dangerous, very dangerous. He made us drop our guard without doing anything, we were very vulnerable there, and if he was an enemy, we'd be dead. Did you that woman with him, holding that red spear? Another man answered her, and he has light blue eyes and green hair that is slicked back, he has some sort of mysterious aura around him. Ajuka, we all saw that spear, and there is only one spear like that in existence. A tall man with bald head said, and his voice sounded unenthusiastic yet serious at the same time. Oh, Falbium, you're awake, said Sirzek as they looked at the man, but Ajuka spoke and got their attention. The cursed spear, Guy Bolg. The spear of Scathach and was given to Ku Chulainn according to the legend, said Ajuka as the other three listened. That spear is very dangerous, it descended from Gunnar and Brianak, carved from the skull of Karuad, and it was once said that Ku Chulainn was the only one that could wield it as a throwing weapon. Truly, a dangerous and very powerful weapon, and to see it with my own eyes is surprising at the least, stated by Ajuka before he continued. That woman with him, who do you think that is? He asked them, but they didn't know and shook their head. I have no idea, I've never seen her before, Sirzek said as he remembered that ominous-looking spear held by that beautiful woman. Yeah, same. No clue. Ajuka nodded at them with understanding, he then cleared his throat and spoke. I have on good authority, that the woman accompanying that man is Scathach herself. Naruto continued to walk through the devil territory of the underworld, finding settlements and taking the sleeping souls of those who passed. Whether they are from the old Satan faction and the anti-Satan faction, it did not matter to him. They are all devils to him, there is no difference in death because the person they were before they died no longer exist. Even though they are devils, they were still part of his creation, they merely evolved from being an angel to an entirely new species, which was due to how their ancestors openly rebelled. They were expelled from heaven harshly and the grace of God was forcefully stripped away from them, leading to their kind being born. Unlike fallen angels who simply lost their grace by temptation, it wasn't taken from them, they just lost it. Thinking about those 4 young devils that I met, they're going to be more powerful in the future. Maybe they can replace the original 4 Satans. That's possible. I can feel a strong aura inside that young crimson-haired man, no doubt. He's the strongest of those 4. Gremory. Only that family has the crimson hair trait, Naruto thought as he continued walking deep in the underworld. This war will be over soon, Lord God, said a womanly voice next to him, her voice laced with mirth and annoyance, a strange mix. Yes, I can feel it, Scathach, and you just call me by my name, you're too proud to address me as Lord, and you know it, said Naruto to the woman next to him. Scathach from the Celtic myth, that is her name. She has long purple hair and red eyes, she is also wearing a full body outfit that hugs her curvaceous body. You are the only god I cannot kill, and when I heard you died, I was angry that someone has taken my goal, then I remembered you cannot die, but I shall still try to kill you. You know to yourself that you cannot kill me, no one can kill me, I am the personification of the word, God. I did create the entire universe after all. And if you do try to kill me again, it will end badly for you like last time and I do not know if I would be able to stop Kagaya next time. Then there are the other members of my family. So, stop blaming me because you became immortal. I had nothing to do with it, it was all your doing, you are a wise woman, you should know that yourself. Naruto berated her as they continued to walk together. Why can't you just kill me? I have done my part in this universe, I have nothing to do in this place, she said to him as she gripped tightly the red spear she is holding with her right hand. You believe so? Naruto asked, who glanced down at her, waiting for an answer, but he got nothing. I thought you wanted to bring happiness to the masses. Why give up on life when you could bring joy to the world? You could make the people happy with their lives. I've done that to my people, and that is probably enough for one lifetime, said Scathach while Naruto looked on towards the horizon. But you have eternity to spend. I don't need it. As I said, stop blaming me for that. I am not blaming you, I'm blaming those gods in my homeland. But you sounded like you are blaming me. It is because you are a god, the god, and I have bad experiences with gods, she explained to him while he nodded in understanding. Because they are children, they are inexperienced with the ways of the world, except for a few notable ones, and most of them are in the east, answered Naruto as he continued to walk with the warrior queen beside him. Silence reigned for a few minutes until she spoke. Why did you relieve me of my duties in the land of shadows? She asked him. Because you should have never been there at all, and that place does not need a queen, nor a gatekeeper, it can run on its own, it was made that way. He explained to her and she looked at him. That answer is not enough, Naruto, she said, addressing him by his first name. Now you call me by my name, and yes, I know that answer is not enough, and I shall explain to you as we walk towards the next ravaged settlement in this war-torn place. War never changes, she muttered as she walked with and he heard her. Wars were fought for less, but this war is a just war. A war that is bound to happen because of different ideologies and beliefs. One side wants peace. The other wants to continue the Great War, and that side is not content with what happened. They knew the fallen angels were greatly weakened, but with my apparent demise, their numbers were replenished, even if it was a small percentage because when I left heaven, a part of the system was sealed shut and no angels fell ever since. But I know that the dissenters of the Great War will win this. I have met some devils that I believe will lead this place into a better one, said Naruto before continuing. And back to answer, I relieved you of your responsibilities in the land of shadows because I have a better plan for you. She looked at him with a questioning gaze. Ho? Plan? What is it? You are going to help me bring peace and order to the world. She stopped walking and looked at him with a confused face. Ha! You are God. Why would you need my help? You could do everything you want. The world is your creation after all, she asked him and he looked at her. Doing everything on your own is not good, so I left heaven at the hands of the seraphim, because I know they can run heaven without me, so I can focus on the world itself, and I do not like doing things on my own these days. That is why I have my family with me, so I would not repeat the same mistake I did when I created the universe. Scathach looked at him in confusion. Mistake? What are the mistakes he did? That is the question that is etched on her face and Naruto saw it then answered. Something peculiar happened when I created the universe, and it led to the creation of the infinite dragon god, the true red dragon god emperor, and the beast of the apocalypse because I was not focusing much. And it was because I lost track of things. I was young back then, mature yet childish at times. I did everything back then, and look how it ended. We have 3 beings that can destroy the universe. One is flying through the dimensional gap, the other is annoyed at the first and living at the same place, and the third is sealed so I could study more about it. I even lost track of time when I created the universe. I was so annoyed at myself when I learned of that fact. What does this have to do with me? Even though I find it funny that you lost track of things. Scathach giggled while Naruto shook his head in amusement. Peace and order for the world. That is something that can be done with time, but first, I have to establish what was written in the scriptures, and that would surely need your help. Scathach knows the Holy Bible, but she has never read it, so she asked him. What has to be established? She asked and he answered. The kingdom of God on earth. She looked at him with mild shock, something he noticed. So, what do you say? Asked Naruto as he observed the emotions brewing around Scathach and he knows she is thinking about what he said thoroughly, and after a few moments, she gave her answer. I accept. What? Exclaimed Searzex as Seraphal and Falbium looked at the green-haired man with a shocked look. Yes, you 3 heard me right. I believe that it was Scathach herself, Ajuka stated with finality. How did you end up with that conclusion, my friend? Searzex asked Ajuka, who shrugged his shoulders. That's the only logical explanation that I can think of. Besides, it was said that Scathach vanished from the traces of history, but she did not die. Somehow, she became immortal, unable to die and was stuck to live for as long as the world exists. And, before Ku Chulain, that spear belonged to her. She gave it him afterward, but she took it back after the death of Ku Chulainn. So, what do you all think? Ajuka asked them and they all went into thinking, until Falbium, who surprisingly stayed awake, spoke. That is certainly probable. But what is she doing here, in the middle of a war? And why is she accompanying that man? Who is he really? I have a feeling that we haven't seen the end of it, and it makes me sleepy thinking of it, and I'd like to get some sleep. As if on a cue, he yawned after he said that, a drop of sweat coming down from the back of Sirzek's, Ajuka, and Serafal's head. You are too damn lazy for your own good, Falbium, stated by Ajuka, who shook his head in amusement. Their friend is always like this, all the time. But such things must come to an end, because a messenger came, bearing bad news, as seen on his face. The old Satan faction are attacking. The HQ wants you to respond, the messenger said as the four friends focused their attention on the man. Where? Sirzek asked. Our second line of defense, 10 kilometers south of here. They breached our first line when you four were scouting the north earlier, and Kroizuri Asmodeus, Shalba Beelzebub, and Kataria Leviathan was spotted there. Sirzek and Ajuka looked at each other with serious faces. Falbium turned serious as well as Serafal. We need to go, now. Sirzek shouted as he ran outside, with his friends following. They have the descendants of the original Satans to contend with. But one thing is bothering Sirzek and Ajuka. Where is Rizavam Lavan Lucifer? They never heard of him or seen him since the end of the Great War, and they couldn't help but be curious. Rizavam is a very powerful devil. The son of the Morning Star is one of the few people that can destroy an army alone, yet he is missing. And not long after, the news of Leviathan and Lilith being missing broke out in the underworld. They knew something is afoot. Those two are very powerful in their own right. But most presumed they were killed off during the height of the war, and the underworld fell deeper into chaos, and it is one of the factors that led to this civil war that killed off a huge amount of devils and led a number of ancient devil houses into extinction from both sides. Now, the 72 pillars has fallen down to 34, a huge blow to the devils as whole, and there are factions that can take advantage of this and strike them when the underworld is at its weakest. Sirzek and his friends knew this, so they are trying to stop this from happening. But if one thing is certain, he knows that the fallen angels can't attack them, because their numbers are too few and Azazel is tired of war. While the angels won't, because heaven has been secluded itself to prevent the news of God missing or dead. Sirzek and his three friends knew about it because they were there when the Great War was declared over. They served as part of the devil contingent led by Zekrom Bael. They all hope that this war ends sooner than later because it can lead to the extinction of their kind, something they do not want to happen. Lucifad. Capital of the underworld and headquarters of the old Satan faction. Euclid Lucifuge is angry. His sister Graphia is missing. She should have been back some time ago. He knows she is powerful and there aren't many devils out there that can defeat her outright, so he knew something's afoot, something he doesn't like. He loved his sister and admired her courage and strength. She is one of the most powerful devils in their side, the old Satan faction. He loathed that name, because for him there is only the four great Satans, not old, not new, just those four, and those four are dead. But something about Lady Leviathan's disappearance bothers him. He remembered that she was the only one that openly disagreed with his lord, something he didn't like about her, but he could reason, war is deadly and costly. Then there is Lady Lilith, the widow of his late lord. She went missing just before the Great War ended, before her now late husband was killed by God, alongside Beelzebub and Asmodeus. Euclid knew that his sister followed Lilith more than Lucifer. It must have been because she is a woman as he thought, but also because he knew that Lilith is way more powerful than Lucifer. Not many knew it because she rarely showed it, but there is one thing that he doesn't like about Lilith. She is the complete opposite of Lucifer. She is kind, loving, and caring, something a devil shouldn't be, especially if the said woman is the mother of all devils, and it is one of the many things why Graphia preferred Lilith more than Lucifer. He didn't like it, not at all. Where is my sister? Damn it, she should have been back at this point, he muttered as walked back and forth inside Lucifer's library where he learned many things about the world. Suddenly, a messenger appeared, much to his chagrin. Sir, the descendants are leading an attack towards the rebels' HQ, said the messenger, and his message annoyed Euclid. Where is Lord Rizavam when you need him? We haven't seen him since the Great War ended, he shouted on his mind before looking at the messenger. Tell them to pull back. If that damned crimson-haired man and his friends are coming there, they will be outnumbered and outgunned. They are the leaders, they should be here planning. not leading the attacks themselves, unless it is utmost necessary. The messenger bowed and left with a magic circle immediately, and Euclid sighed in exasperation. Those fools will get themselves killed, he thought. Then, he saw a book in one of the shelves, one that caught his interest. Sephiroth Graal. The Holy Grail. Interesting, very interesting. Euclid then took the book to discover many things that will affect the future. Whether it is good or bad, only the future will unravel it. I accept. Besides, I want to see Lady Kagaya again. It has been some time since I last talked to her, said Scathach as she walked forward, leaving Naruto who stood where he was before he walked again to catch up with his companion. Well, knowing her, she would love to see you too. But this time, you will see some of my daughters with her and the others I took with me after the Great War, he said to her as they continued to walk. Lady Lilith? Yeah, she is there, living with us since my battle against Lucifer and his brothers. How did she take her husband's death? She was happy. Don't look at me like that. She was there and burned a small part of him with her fire. She joined you in battle. Scathach delicately raised her elegant eyebrows at what she heard. Yes, with Leviathan, but I stopped them before Lilith even managed to kill Lucifer. I did not want my own daughter to interfere, he explained to her while she nodded. She must have been very angry at him. Understatement, she was utterly furious at him, but still, I did not want to burden her with the blood of her husband. That is my responsibility. I was the one that had him expelled from heaven after his rebellion. It is only right that I finish what I started, though, if the Great War never happened, I would never have fought those three and killed them. But, it happened, we cannot do anything about it and just let the time pass. Naruto sighed as he approached another ruined village. This time, there is a survivor, unlike the others where no one survived. They saw a woman. She looks a bit young, at least in her mid-20s, she has long black hair and light skin. She is wearing a tattered white kimono with black obi. From Naruto's perspective, she fought whoever pillaged her village and was luckily able to run away to escape but was passed out from exhaustion. But then, Naruto sensed her body signature. Nekosho. He then walked towards the unconscious woman with Scathach who followed him, curious about the woman who does not feel like a devil at all. No, there is no devil signature at all. The woman is not a devil at all. What is a Nekosho doing in the underworld? Naruto muttered as he looked through the injuries of the Nekosho, but there was nothing serious, only energy exhaustion. You must have put up a good fight, he whispered as he healed and rejuvenated the reserves of the woman. Soon, the scratches in her skin vanished, returning to its soft and smooth texture. He then picked her up and carried her with his arms, then he turned to Scathach. It seems our little excursion will have to be postponed. Let us go to my hideout of these past 45 years. With that, a rift opened in front of them. Scathach looked at him with confusion. Yomotsu Hirasaka, Kagaya Heim Spacetime Ninjutsu. Go on, I'll follow you, said Naruto, and the warrior queen did what she was told and entered the rift. Soon, the blonde followed and the rift closed. Lady Kagaya, it has been too long. Scathach gave Kagaya a curt nod which was returned in favor. They have a rather interesting backstory. In the times past, Scathach once tried to kill Naruto with her renowned spear. But Naruto proved way too strong for her and she got defeated almost instantly. But she was not the one to give up. She went on to the kill again, but Kagaya interfered and Scathach nearly lost her head in the process. It was one those days when Kaguya's mood is very foul and will kill anyone that touches her husband in the wrong way, without mercy. But they made their peace soon after, because a very angry Naruto is never good for anyone. The last time he was very angry, Sodom and Gomorrah burned because of their sins, and he wasn't very merciful at that period. Needless to say, he rarely gets angry, because he is too damn merciful. Hello, my dear, how have you been? That husband of mine did not say anything about retrieving you. Although, he alluded that he is going to get someone, however, I did not expect it to be you. Come, walk with me, we have a lot to catch up. With that, the goddess walked out of their house with the purple-haired woman followed. He is in one of the rooms, isn't he? Kagaya asked her companion who nodded. Her clothes were no longer the same. She is now wearing an ornate robe courtesy of Lilith. It has been several minutes since they arrived from the underworld. Naruto immediately brought the woman they found in one of the rooms in their hideout, while Scathach went to find Kagaya who was sitting by the fireplace, drinking tea as usual. Yes, we found an unconscious and slightly injured woman near a burning village somewhere in the underworld. A Nekosho, he said, she explained, while Kagaya nodded in understanding, but a sad smile appeared on her face. He was always the one to help anyone, even those humans who cursed and used his name in vain. He used to help them during their greatest need. But luckily, I'm always there to knock some sense into his head, and let's just say that karma went back to those humans in full force, thanks to me. He loved the world so much, that sometimes it is no longer admirable. It bordered stupidity sometimes and it annoyed me so. He was and still is the idiot that I loved and married, she said before she paused and sighed. But fortunately, he has me, my daughters, and the others to help him if needs anything, or knock some sense into his head when needed, she finished while Scathach nodded. I can see that maybe it was a bad idea to create those many other gods that nearly ruined the world. Why did he do that? She asked. To create their own unique places in the world. But not many of those countless gods knew that they originated from him, so when most humans abandoned paganism in Europe and Asia, religion versus religion, ideology versus ideology, gods versus gods, humans versus humans, and you the god-killer, killed a number of them. Look at the original pagan Roman Empire. They persecuted many of his followers when Christianity was still young and growing, but now, it outlived the said empire. But the more their power increases, the more corruption grows. But those gods will not be able to do anything, not with their powers dwindling at the lack of prayers that they get, she said to her. Maybe that is one of the reasons why I killed some gods easily, that it was very pathetic, she surmised while Kaguya nodded. Indeed, from those gods, prayer is worship, a necessity to exist. To my husband, he doesn't need prayer to exist. To him, prayer is a conversation between him and faithful. Sometimes he answers them immediately. But most of the time, he has the system working on it, to determine whether the ones that sent those prayers truly meant what they said, or just a show. It is called the system of miracles for a reason. I'm sure he explained it to you already. Scathach nodded in affirmative while Kaguya looked on ahead and they stopped by the cliff. Yes, he said something about the system, but what is he talking about establishing his kingdom on earth? The warrior queen asked Kaguya, who smiled at her. That was my idea, all of it. I told him that if he is not going to rule over heaven alone, then establish a body that will govern the world according to his will. A kingdom or something similar that will establish and maintain peace and order in the world. He hesitated slightly about that, but the others immediately said their support for my idea, so he was outnumbered and relented. You must have noticed that he took the sleeping souls of those deceased devils and destroyed their bodies. Scathach nodded. He will purify those souls and resurrect them according to his designs. They will be the people that will be living in the place that we will all establish. That is why you are here, to help him, so he does not make any more mistakes like the ones he did during the creation. The goddess explained as Scathach nodded in understanding, but a question entered her mind. But, what if there are humans who do not want God's peace and goes on to rebel against his goodwill? She asked. Kaguya then looked at her with a serious look. Then I shall bring down their own retribution, personally. Scathach's eyes widened slightly at Kaguya's statement. She sounded very serious, then she continued. This universe has seen my dearest husband's wrath, but many claim them to be fairy tales. One day, I will make them learn that his wrath is not a fairy tale nor a joke, and with it, my wrath will follow. They have never seen my wrath before, and if I bring down my wrath to the world, it will as dark and sorrowful as my husband's, but do not tell him that. I will tell it to him myself, understood? Scathach silently nodded. She dared not speak against her, lest Kaguya brings down her wrath to her. But then, she agreed with her wholeheartedly, and she has truly resolved in her heart that she will help Naruto as much as she can, to bring about peace and order. But enough of that talk, let's discuss another thing, said Kaguya. What is it? Kaguya remained silent for a few moments before she spoke. Your eyes, it tells me many things, one of them is love. Scathach tensed, not liking where this conversation is going. Kaguya noticed it and smirked inside her own head. You love him, romantically, the man you wanted dead, but cannot do so because it is impossible. You want to spend eternity with him because you know you will never be able to kill him. The warrior queen remained silent with her red eyes widened. Since when? She asked, her voice is quiet, like a whisper. Since you first tried to fight him and failed miserably. I saw that you were intrigued first, then it grew as you spent time with us in heaven. To love, but you never did tell him, because you are too proud to tell him about your feelings. He knows all about it, but he never talked about it with you even until the day you left heaven to travel, then ended up as the gatekeeper of the lands of shadows, and as such, you never had a chance to speak with him, until now. You are going to stay with us, this time, permanently, said Kagaya, seemingly insinuating about something, and it was noticed by the purple-haired woman. What are you saying? Just talk to him about it. He'll accept your feelings, I know him too well. Oh, don't look at me like that. I know you're too proud of yourself. What I'm saying is be proud of who and what you are, but be humble enough to talk about your feelings to him openly. Kaguya's expression softened as she saw Skathich's face. She is showing mixed emotions. Kagaya was right. She knew that, but she has a reputation to maintain. However, what is reputation if she cannot die? She knew Naruto will never kill her, even if she begged him, which she will never do. She knew that the moment she left with Naruto, she will be staying with him for eternity. So, after a few minutes of silence, she decided to do what is right, and Kagaya got a soft smile on her face. All right, I shall tell him. I hope it does not come back and slap me in the face, said Skathich, sighing heavily while Kaguya's smile widened. Good, but you will have competition. There are another 3 women wanting to do the same thing, so you'll be the 4th in line. Good luck, you'll need it. Now, let us actually catch up, instead of talking about things that can be discussed later. And with that, they began to talk about things that they have seen during the past centuries, like old friends catching up. So, what do you think of this? Nero showed Lilith, Leviathan, Mordred, Jean, and Altria a large, hand-drawn map of a circular walled city. A very large city with several concentric walls. It is quite detailed, showing off roads, districts, divisions, and other places of importance, especially that certain place at the center of the city. That is too large, muttered by Jean to herself while the others remained silent. How large is it, Nero? Lilith asked the former empress, who answered her immediately. Based on the system of measurement that my praetor taught to me, approximately 75,000 square kilometers. Still calling Naruto as her praetor, Nero answered while the others widened their eyes, except for Lilith, who began to think about many things. That is indeed larger than cities in the world in existence, said Altria, with the others agreeing with her. What use do we have for a city as huge as that? We know that father is going to make all of this by himself, but still, what is the point, sister? Mordred asked, addressing Nero as her sister, something they have taken a liking several years ago, so it is no surprise to the others. If you are going to create the capital of the world, why hold back my artistic mind if I can go all out? Besides, there is nothing to lose, only gain. Nero answered while Mordred began to think about it silently, before nodding. You have a point about that, but something tells me you also wanted to add the things you would have added to the city of Rome if you didn't go on and kill yourself, she said to her. Nero merely nodded. There is no point in denying it, but she ignored that last part. She did once want to remap the city of Rome to her liking, but wasn't able to do so because of many factors preventing her from doing it. And then, the Great Fire happened and her enemies blamed her. Something about the fact that the people knew that Nero wanted to redesign Rome, and having a huge urban fire gave her a chance of doing so. Did the very large amphitheater gave it away? She asked. Yeah. That was an obvious ancient Roman addition, and by the scale of your map, that amphitheater is thrice larger than the Colosseum that was built a few years after your death, Mordred answered, with another mention of Nero's death. She was about to retort but stopped herself. She knew why Mordred is acting like that right now, and she is not going to dignify it with a comment. I'm not even going to ask you how high those walls are. I have my guesses, but I'll keep them to myself, Altria said, observing the detailed map with her keen eyes. Yeah, I think that is a good idea, Jean said, also looking at the details of the map. Did you add any French influences on that? Jean asked Nero, who nodded with a smile. Of course, I learned many things from my praetor, and I added them wisely. Besides, how could I forget about any of you? That is the last thing I'll ever do, she stated with vigor. Things are going to be very interesting in these coming days, Naruto muttered to himself as he watched the unconscious Nekosho on one of the unused beds in his hideout. It has been a few days since he brought back the woman from the underworld,